will prevent you from getting it and from giving it to others. Everyone knows this is false, but the city's argument is still that it would be unsafe to have unvaccinated firefighters in the firehouse or around the public because they could infect them with COVID because unvaccinated people are just walking carriers, I guess. What it really says is that the city has no faith in the vaccine either. Other departments have let unvaccinated members work with exemptions, but the city still says it would be too burdensome to accommodate members, and the department recently dropped its booster mandate. So is this really about safety? I'm sure the members of the commission are relieved that this will be the last of these hearings, and we are also relieved that we will be able to move past these predetermined hearings and into a real court of law. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes.
Your time starts now.
To set the record straight and to summarize how each of these firefighters have represented themselves and shared their truth during their commission meetings. They stand on constitutionality and sovereignty. You can paint them as conspiracy theorists, anti-science, right-wing crazies all you want. That's your only ammo. The truth prevails regardless of the city's government's power over what is shared in the media and in the newspapers. During Firefighter Veneman's commission meeting, Feinstein commented to each of these firefighters that she found it very interesting that they haven't looked for employment in a different fire department that doesn't require the experimental jab, and that the only reason they haven't tried to become firefighters in a different department was about the money. You have never been more wrong. You all completely underestimate and misunderstand what holding the line truly is and what this fight is all about. These brave firefighters are the true heroes and here to maintain and uphold human rights, constitutional rights, civil rights, and civil liberties as sovereign, natural, free human beings and American citizens with integrity and honor. They believe in the right to work, free will, personal choice, medical freedom, and consent without coercion, retaliation, threats, disciplinary action, or termination. This is not a vaccine versus non-vaccine issue. This is not a left versus right political issue. When will you ever understand this? This is a human issue, human rights issue. They believe all members have freedom of choice and natural rights. Denying their religious exemptions is unconstitutional. Saying that only 2 to 3 out of all of their religious exemptions are valid, but not any of the others, is insanity. Approving some of the religious exemptions, but then unwilling to accommodate them.
Thank you. Your time is up. Caller, would you like to make public comment? Caller? Josh? Would you like to make public comment? Hello?
Hello?
Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes.
Your time starts now.
I'm very concerned that all the commissioners have put on blinders to the situation here. The health order clearly states that exempt employees can enter high-risk settings of certain protocols. Now, it's concerning that the chief mentioned in her previous testimony that she predetermined that nobody was going to be accommodated. So there it is, clear as day, that the process, quote unquote, which has been heard many times in commission meetings for the last year, was predetermined to put everybody in this non-accommodated position or non-religious position and then force them out. I'm also very concerned that reading the new health order says the shot wanes in a few months. That's why you recommend the booster. It's a very interesting comment. You guys should take that all into account. Also, the commissioners are failing to act, investigate, ask real questions of what happened during this process, why these people weren't accommodated, why their exemption process, what happened in their exemption process. The reality is there was no a process. The chief even admits it herself. So all of you have heard this. You will be held accountable eventually, especially who's ever been involved.
Are you done? Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes.
Your time starts
Hello.
now.
I'm a mother of a 13-year-old child. I'm extremely concerned with this experimental technology. I live in Marin County. I did live in San Francisco, have a house there, but I moved out. I just think what you guys are doing in San Francisco is unbelievable to the firefighters. They are they need to be strong and healthy, and this is experimental technology that's not proven safe. It's the most rushed vaccine in history. Pfizer and Moderna vaccines use mRNA technology, which has never been approved for public use in humans. This technology includes genetic interference and has caused infertility and autoimmune reactions. It's the first product of any kind that Moderna has brought to market. These people are serial felons. These companies, first of all, Pfizer, they've been fined hundreds of millions of dollars for their fraudulent activity. These are people not to be trusted. What's going to happen in the end is you'll all find out that you've been wrong. And why don't you just admit it now instead of later, when all the damage is done? Because children are being hurt. Young people that have never had heart disease or myocarditis before are falling down on sports fields. I mean, unfortunately, we're being incredibly censored. We're not getting the information because the media platforms, Google, Facebook, Instagram, all of them, go off all of them because honestly, they're selling us a bill of goods. They're all tied to the pharmaceutical companies and making an extreme amount of money. Even Fauci has patents. These guys that run these companies, the NIH or these outfits, they are tied to the profit motive. So they create the problem, then they create the solution, and then they make a ton of money off it. It came out of Wuhan. It's proven now. It's a lab leak out of Wuhan. Then they give us the solution and make billions off our bodies.
Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Yes, your time starts now.
Thank you very much. I just want to let each and one of you know that I feel for the position you're in, and I pray for you every day. And I know this is a tough situation, but some of the facts that have been stated over and over again that no one cares about. Mike Crotty and these firefighters put in for religious exemptions. You should be asking the questions of how come every other fire department besides the one in California can accommodate firefighters and San Francisco cannot? How come there are doctors, nurses, dentists working in emergency settings with approved exemptions with testing and masking, but San Francisco cannot do that for their employees? How come some Christian and Catholic employees were labeled religious enough and others were not? How come the chief wrote on her order number 3 of the vaccination policy that there's an exemption and accommodation process, but then under oath said she was never going to accommodate anyone? Why is the booster mandate dropped? I'm very happy it's dropped, but the health order states that the efficiency of the vaccine wanes over months. This is undisputed. And yet you have firefighters working that took their initial shots years ago, and these people with sincerely held religious beliefs or medical reasons are not allowed to work, even though they have blood work showing natural immunity. I'm only led to believe, this just doesn't make any sense to me. And I think you should be asking someone to make sense of this besides the city attorney and the chief just saying, well, it's too risky.
Excuse me, your time is up. Caller, would you like to make public comment?
Yes,
Your time starts now.
thank you. Good morning, and my name is Buffy Kester. I'm a retired sergeant with the San Francisco Sheriff's Department. I retired 7 years ago. And what is going on in San Francisco right now, the city I love, the city I worked for 22 years, is horrific to me. First, I'd like to say, God bless you, Michael, and God bless your entire family. I have been there for you and your family through this whole ordeal. Stay strong, and I am praying for you. This termination of Michael and all the other firefighters is absolutely unbelievable in a city that I love, that this is happening. I've known Michael and his entire family for over 25 years, and they stand very strong in their faith. And Michael did everything that he could to follow the rules and apply for this exemption, just to be denied. And that is absolutely horrific, in my opinion. Michael was there the very first day that the pandemic broke out, and he was there up until the day that he was told he can no longer come because he was a threat to those he was saving. He has saved so many people's lives, the citizens of San Francisco, and he is one of the most honorable people that I know. And like I said, he was there throughout the whole pandemic, and the health order that San Francisco has is absolutely invalid, especially at this point. I think everyone has to admit this is an invalid health order. There is no authorized vaccination for COVID, and natural immunity.
Your time is up. Thank you. Caller, would you like to make public comment? Caller. I've come back to you, Josh. Would you like to make public comment? Okay, it looks like public comment. That's the end of it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Secretary. I am just going to go through an outline of how we're going to proceed today. And I think that will take us up to the point where we will take a 10-minute break, but we will get all the procedural processes out on the record so that we're all on the same page. We previously had a case management conference in this matter, and at that time, I know that Firefighter Crotty indicated that he wished to proceed with this hearing in open session. He has an option to have this proceed in open or closed session. So let me just ask you, Firefighter Crotty, as of today, would you like to proceed in open session or closed session?
Open session, Madam Feinstein, and I would also like to indicate that I'm getting texts right now saying people had their hands up and they were ignored. So this has been a problem repeatedly throughout these hearings, that for some reason, a lot of people say that they were not allowed to speak. Just want to note that for the record.
And I'd like to note that I went through every single hand that was raised, and only one person did not answer, and that was Josh.
It's people on the phone line.
Josh Zavala.
I'm getting texts right now, people saying they're on the phone, having their hands up, they're not being called on. One person's on WebEx, had their hand up, they didn't get called on. So
No,
do what you will.
no, I called to everybody that had their hand up. Thank you.
Very good.
All right. So you wish to proceed in open session. What is the department's position?
The department has no objection to proceeding in open session.
All right.
Yes.
We will proceed then in open session. Section 7B of the procedural rules provides that this hearing on the verified complaint can be held in open session. Again, I should also say, though, subject to section 7D, as in David, the commission may choose to hold some or all of the hearing in closed session for reasons such as third-party privacy rights or where disclosure of certain information is prohibited under the law. So we've determined we'll proceed in open session. And we will subsequently determine whether or not the deliberations will be held in open or closed session. And that will be a vote of the commissions. Just to continue on, pursuant to Rule 3D of the procedural rules, with the exception of parties and, of course, any representatives, all witnesses are excluded from commission discipline proceedings except when testifying, until that witness has completed testifying and has been excused by the presiding officer. That would be me. The parties and their representatives may not disclose the content of a witness's testimony to other witnesses, and before those other witnesses testify and until the other witnesses are excused by the presiding officer. Any witness who is testifying and is not a party to the proceeding must exit the hearing at this time until after the witness has finished testifying. I want to just briefly summarize the hearing procedures and identify the pre-hearing filings. As the parties are aware, although this is a non-disciplinary separation case, the procedural rules governing trial of disciplinary cases generally apply. With respect to pre-hearing filings, the commission has received and reviewed the following. The department's pre-hearing statement dated October 5th, 2022, with attached exhibits 1 through 3, and Firefighter Crotty's pre-hearing statement submitted on October 5th, 2022, with exhibits A through UU, 2 U's. And I just want to confirm with you, Firefighter Crotty, that that is your final exhibit in the binder.
Yes, but I'd also like to make a comment for the record.
Well, let me finish with this, and you'll have the opportunity to make that comment.
Thank you.
Okay. Just to give an overview of the procedure, each party may present an opening statement. Mr. Crotty may choose to give his opening statement following the department's opening statement, or he may choose to wait until he begins presenting his case and make his opening statement at that time. After opening statements, the department will present its case. Mr. Crotty will then present his case, and the department may present rebuttal evidence. Each party may cross-examine the witnesses of the other party, and when cross-examination is complete and the witness is dismissed, we will, and all the evidence has been received from both sides, we will proceed to closing argument. And when it comes to closing argument, the department bears the burden of proof. So the department will go first, then Mr. Crotty will give his closing argument, and finally the department has an opportunity for rebuttal argument, again because the department bears the burden of proof. With respect to time limits, the commission previously granted Mr. Crotty's request for additional time, and accordingly, the parties were notified that they will each have a maximum of 60 minutes to present evidence and examine and cross-examine witnesses. I should note that if any of the commissioners have a question of the witnesses, that time will not be deducted from the party's time. That is doesn't count against the 60 minutes of evidentiary time. Each party's allocated 10 minutes for an opening statement and 10 minutes for a closing argument. The department receives an additional 5 minutes for rebuttal closing. Again, your 60 minutes runs anytime you are questioning a witness, but it is up to you to determine how much of that time to use. Our secretary will be keeping a running count of each party's time and may ask for a time check, or you may ask for a time check when it's your turn to question a witness. We will also take a 15-minute break between the close of evidence and closing statements. Throughout the hearing, if a party has an objection to testimony or evidence being offered or a question that is posed, the party should state the objection, state the grounds for their objection, and I will then allow the opposing party to respond, and I'll rule on the objection. I will either sustain the objection or overrule the objection. If I sustain the objection, the witness will not answer the question. If I overrule the objection, the witness will answer the question. If the parties need to take a recess, please let me know, preferably after the examination of a witness has been completed rather than in the middle of the examination, so we don't interrupt testimony. And I also want to just make clear that we do have our certified court reporter here, and I need to be mindful that she's responsible for creating our official record and for taking down everything that is said. So I need to be mindful and give her a break because her fingers can only move so fast for so long. It's my inclination to take a break every hour and 15 minutes or so. Does that sound acceptable, Madam Court Reporter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, now, are there any other preliminary matters or issues that we need to address? And I want to make clear one thing. This is not an opportunity to reassert any motions that I previously ruled on, but if there are any outstanding issues that we need to address before presentation of evidence starts, this is the time to raise them.
Nothing from the department, Madam President.
All right. Firefighter Crotty.
Yes. So first of all, I don't know if it's the proper time. I'm not in my arena, obviously. I'm not schooled in law. I'm going to do my best from what I've seen from other trials. But a motion that I'd like to make a motion that my pre-trial motions and communications be part of the record.
I believe they are. Am I correct, Mr. Porianda?
Correct. Firefighter Crotty, everything that's filed in this case becomes part of the administrative record.
Okay. I'd also like to request that I can combine my opening and closing statements for the end because it's quite lengthy and I don't want to split it up. And I'm going to read through it rather quickly, and I will submit to save the court reporter time and the effort of having to keep up with me and me having to slow down, I can just submit that to the commission as part of the record if that's acceptable.
Well, I'm not gonna put the court reporter in a position where you're reading quickly. One of the great dangers of any kind of hearing is when people read, they tend to read too fast.
Right.
And that makes it very difficult on the court reporter. So you have 10 minutes for opening and 10 minutes for closing. If you want to combine it into, yeah, if you're waiving your right to give an opening statement in order to give a lengthier closing statement, I'll allow you to do that, but you need to read at a pace that the court reporter can keep up on. Otherwise, it's just not fair to her.
Okay, so what I'm asking, Commissioner, if Miss Millen can just not record it and I will submit it and it can be added to the record. Is that acceptable?
Mr. Porianda, I've got to defer to you. I have not confronted that situation before. I mean, he's asking basically to submit a written closing statement.
For the record.
I'm sorry, the rules allow for oral closings or written closings. So you can opt for either one in this case.
Madam President, may I be heard?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
On behalf of the department, I agree that under the rules, Mr. Firefighter Crotty has the option of choosing either a written or an oral statement. He does not have the right to both. The court reporter has the duty to record what it is he's saying, even if it is the same as what is in the written statement, in case it varies or there are any ad-libs or changes on the record. So therefore, if Mr. Crotty would like not to make an oral statement, the department has no objection to him submitting a written statement. But we do have an objection to an unrecorded oral statement.
All right, and I'm gonna sustain that objection. And Firefighter Crotty, you have your options here.
Okay. I would like to read it at the end as my closing statement for 20 minutes. And then I was just trying to be helpful. I'm not trying to pull anything. Okay.
No, I understand. Thank you. All right. And at this point, before we get to opening statements, under Rule 11A of the procedural rules, we are required to take the member's plea. Does the member agree or disagree with the chief's stated reason for requesting non-disciplinary separation?
Okay. I'd like to read a brief statement for the record.
Now, actually, I need you to enter your plea first.
It's about my plea. If I can make a statement, please.
Firefighter Crotty, under the rules, it's only a plea, so it would be a yes or a no response.
You agree with the chiefs or you don't agree with the chiefs?
I don't agree with the chief.
All right, that is your plea. And let me just say, I'm looking at this and we're next ready to go into opening statements. Madam Court Reporter, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Are you fine? All right.
Thank
Okay. Then we will begin with the department's opening statement, please.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. Good morning, Firefighter Crotty and members of the public. Once again, my name is Matt Yan, Deputy City Attorney for the department. Now, during the public comments, one caller asked an important question. What are we doing here today? And so allow me to answer that question by reviewing some recent history. 2.5 years ago, the entire country went into lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Since then, over 1 million Americans have died, including many of the friends and family of the people gathered in this hearing today. Yet despite all of that death and all of that loss, San Francisco remains a COVID success story. According to public documents available online, the death rate in this city is less than 1/3 of the country as a whole. And how did we achieve that success? We did so through the aggressive measures taken by the city's health officer to fight this pandemic. One such measure was Health Order C19-07Y, which requires all city employees who may enter or work in high-risk settings to be fully vaccinated by October 13th, 2021. This order was based on the health officer's scientific and medical judgment that the vaccine reduces the likelihood of getting COVID-19 and spreading it to the general public. And today, nearly 99% of city employees have received a full initial course of vaccination. So once again, what are we doing here today? We are here to continue the good work of the city to protect the health and safety of the people of San Francisco. Now let's move to this case. It is undisputed that firefighter Michael Crotty works in a high-risk setting. He will not dispute that. It is undisputed that firefighter Michael Crotty did not receive one of the 3 vaccines named in the health order. That is not disputed. Thus, it is undisputed that firefighter Crotty is in violation of the health order and the general order, leaving the commission with no option but to subject him to a non-disciplinary separation. Now, the health order does allow for certain exemptions, and firefighter Crotty will likely discuss those exemptions. It allows for exemptions due to medical disability, which you will hear firefighter Crotty did not apply for. And it allows for an exemption due to sincerely held religious belief. It does not allow for exemptions based on personal belief. Now, in addition, the health order anticipates that there may be situations and there may be jobs that a city department simply cannot accommodate, in which a city department cannot accommodate an unvaccinated employee, even with an exemption. For instance, employees who regularly work with vulnerable populations do not have to be accommodated. Employees who work in situations where they cannot keep their mask on at all times do not have to be accommodated. And if an accommodation would compromise workplace safety or a department's operations, no accommodation is needed. In this case, the department determined that firefighter Crotty did not qualify for a religious exemption. What's more, the job of a firefighter is such that even if he did qualify, the risk that his unvaccinated status would pose to the members of the public and to his fellow firefighters still makes it impossible for him to continue in his job without vaccination. Now let's quickly go over what this hearing is not about. This hearing is not about whether COVID is a real disease or whether the vaccines actually work. Virtually every government agency at the state, federal, and even the international level have agreed that they do. The city's health officer also agrees that they do, and for the purposes of this commission, her judgment is legally binding. Now, this hearing is not about politics because, in the words of one of the callers, COVID is not a left versus right issue. The current and former presidents don't agree on anything, but they both agree that the COVID vaccine works. And this hearing is not about whether firefighter Crotty has served courageously and dutifully in his role as a firefighter. I have no doubt that he has. The fact remains that firefighter Crotty was given a direct order to get vaccinated and protect the public that he serves. Following that order would have taken him 5 minutes and cost him nothing, while significantly reducing the possibility that he would get COVID or transmit it to third parties. He chose not to follow that order. And that has left the department with no option but to recommend his non-disciplinary separation. I urge the commission to uphold that recommendation and ensure that the department remains in compliance with a lawful city order and that San Francisco remains a model of good governance and civic responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yan. And as I understand, firefighter Crotty, you are reserving your time for the conclusion of the case. Am I correct?
Yes, correct, but you said I could make a record, and I never got to do that.
Well, I'm not quite sure when you say
Not
make
my
a
opening
record.
statement, but I had a statement for the record, and you said that I could do that, and we never got to that before
You,
Mr. Yant
yeah,
started.
is it procedural? Is that, I mean, that's what
Yes.
we've gone through is
It's
procedure.
procedural, but I tried to interject 3 times and I was not, we said we would get to that, but we never got to that. And then Mr. Yan started with his opening statement. So I have a statement for the record that is procedural and it's not my opening statement. May I proceed with it?
Mr. Porianda.
Firefighter Crotty, if you have a motion, that you can make a motion at this time, but the rules do not allow for any other type of statements other than an opening statement.
Okay. A8343 provides that the accused member of the Fire Commission trial shall be entitled upon
Slow
hearing.
down, please,
No.
for the court reporter's sake.
Is his time getting taken here?
Yep, yes, it
No,
is.
it isn't. I asked to make something. You said we would put it in, and now you're not allowing me to do this.
No, that is not what I said. You are able to give testimony in your hearing. You can give your own testimony. This isn't the wild west of hearings that you can just make a statement whenever you want. We go in a relatively formalized procedure. That's why it's laid out in the rules. And there isn't an allowance for just making a statement. You're either giving sworn testimony or an opening statement. If you want to use some of your time to make an opening statement, you can do that now.
If we can check, go back with the court reporter, and I'm just asking questions. This isn't a statement. But this was about procedural. It's not an opening statement. So if we go back with the court reporter, I asked when the appropriate time to make this ask these questions for the record, and I was told we'd get to that.
Well,
if this is-
we did get to it when I asked if there were any other preliminary issues that we needed to address, and you did not respond at that time. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question, and we'll just move on with things.
Okay. So A8343 provides that the accused member at a fire commission trial shall be entitled, upon hearing, to appear personally and by counsel to have a public trial, and to secure and enforce, free of expense, the attendance of all witnesses necessary for his defense. As it relates to this charter section, I would like to make the following record. I've been deprived of appearing personally. There is no legitimate reason for that this hearing is being conducted remotely when all the other commission hearings are in person. I was denied counsel of my choosing. I request this hearing to remain open because the content is of significant public interest. I believe the government's obligation to the public includes the crucial phase of discussing the evidence that will be presented regarding this decision to uphold or reject the chief's recommendation. In other hearings, the commission has failed to articulate any legal exception to its transparency obligations as required by law. I request they do so today. I, as the employee who may have privacy rights related to this case, would like an open session, but also ask the commission to be aware of protecting my right to not have confidential information unnecessarily announced in this hearing as a form of harassment or doxing me. For instance, I do not believe my home address or specific details contained in my confidential employee file are relevant to this hearing. As far as witnesses are concerned, I would like to address some issues before we get started. I have asked for the Fire Commission to issue notice to attend hearing on several witnesses. Most were denied. I think this has caused me prejudice. The commission granted my request to issue a notice to Chief Vello, but yesterday the city attorney claimed they can't contact him. Can they speak as to what efforts they made to contact him? far as I know, he was on the golf course the other day with the fire department. So I fail to see how Chief Fellow wasn't reachable. Also, before we begin, would you please notify the public of the charges being alleged against me? And if you were able to, I would like you to clarify them for me too.
Mr. Yam, do you have a response?
Well, the city would point the commission to its responses that were filed in response to these motions at the time they were filed. With respect to Chief Vello, we attempted to contact him at his last known home phone number. We were unable to reach him. It appears that Firefighter Crotty believes that he was on the golf course. If so, I see no reason Firefighter Crotty could not have secured his appearance. The city is no longer relying on him as a witness, and therefore, due to their inability to contact and reach him. As for the nature of the non-disciplinary separation that was set forth in the charges that were filed with the Fire Commission, which is Exhibit 1 to the city's evidence that has been submitted for the record. I don't know if Madam President wants me to read that into the record. I presume that you do not, but I'm happy to do so if you would.
This is the letter dated July 29th, 2022, signed by Chief Nicholson.
Yes,
and July 6th, 2022. You have a number of letters here, including the health order as Exhibit 1, and we're certainly not going to read the health order into the record. And it is part of the record because it's been, it is what it is. Presuming that the exhibit is admitted, which it probably will be.
Yeah.
So, Madam President, simply put, Firefighter Crotty is facing non-disciplinary separation due to his failure to comply with the vaccination requirement of the City and County of San Francisco Health Officer, Order of the Health Officer number C19-07Y, as well as the General Order of the Firefighter Department of the San Francisco Fire Department 21A-70. His failure to comply with
And I would also just note that the agenda itself states the violations.
Which I read into the record.
Yes, you did. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Okay. We're now at this time. We've been at it for a little over an hour. We're going to take a 10-minute break. And if everybody could reconvene, please, at 10:45. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right.
That's fine.
10:45.
Yeah, that's good, President Feinstein.
Second, go. Second. All right. Are we ready to resume? All right. Thank you, everybody. I believe at this time, Mr. Crotty is holding on his opening statement, as we discussed previously, and the department may call its first witness.
Thank you, Madam President. Department calls Fire Chief Janine Nicholson.
All right. And Madam Court Reporter, would you kindly swear the chief?
Can I have you raise your right hand?
Yes,
Do you
ma'am.
solemnly state the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Let me just turn off this dispatch radio. Okay.
Okay. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
Just for the sake of the record, you are the chief of the San Francisco Fire Department. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And generally speaking, what would you say is the duty of the San Francisco Fire Department to the residents of the city and county of San Francisco?
Well, it's in our mission statement to protect lives and property. There are a bunch of other things in that mission statement as well. But I personally oversee the operational and the administrative side of the department to ensure that we meet our mission statement.
Chief Nicholson, do you have the department's exhibits in front of you?
I do, yes.
I would ask you to, and all the commissioners, to please turn to the page that's been bait stamped SFFD Crotty 0009.
Okay.
I'm just checking to make sure everyone else is there. Okay. Chief Nicholson, you should be looking at a document that is titled Order of the Health Officer number C19-07Y. Is that where you are?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, it is the health officer's order regarding the COVID-19 vaccine and disease risks.
And who is the health officer? Do you know?
Now it is Dr. Susan Phillips.
And as far as you know, what is the purpose of this health order?
The purpose of this health order is basically public health, to protect public health.
Is the department obligated to comply with the health order?
Yes, we are.
Does the department have the legal discretion to ignore any aspect of the health order?
We do not.
Chief, I'd like you to turn now to the page that's been bait stamped Crotty 13-0013.
Okay.
Does the health order contain a definition of what it means to be fully vaccinated?
Yes, it does.
And I'm looking at page 13, and it says that fully vaccinated now has the same meaning as the newer term, vaccinated with a complete initial series defined below. Do you see that?
I do.
Do you agree with that definition in the health order?
Well, that's what it is, yes.
Okay. I'd like you to turn to the page that's been bait stamped Crotty 0015.
Okay.
Do you see the definition for vaccinated with a complete series?
I do.
As far as you understand, does the health order provide examples of vaccines that would satisfy the definition of fully vaccinated?
Absolutely.
And as far as you understand, have there been any problems with members of the fire department obtaining those vaccinations when they choose to do so?
No, there's been ready access made available to everyone in the department.
Chief, I'd like you to turn back now to the page that's been bait stamped Crotty 0013.
Okay.
Now, this page has a definition of high-risk settings. Generally speaking, do you have an understanding of what it means, what a high-risk setting refers to?
Yes. So a high-risk setting is anything like a jail or a homeless shelter, a skilled nursing facility, congregate living areas, and as well as all the hospitals in the city.
Do firefighters such as Mr. Crotty regularly work in high-risk settings?
Yes, that's part of our job. We never know when we are going to be called into one, but we enter high-risk settings every single day in the San Francisco Fire Department.
Can you explain further, under what circumstances would a firefighter have to enter a high-risk setting?
So if we were to have a medical call in a skilled nursing facility, in a homeless shelter, in a jail, those are all considered high-risk settings. In addition, when we transport people to the hospital, both our EMS personnel and sometimes our suppression personnel need to take part in that transport and transfer of care in the emergency room.
Chief, I'd like to turn your attention now to the page that's been bait stamped Crotty 26.
Yes.
Okay. Now I've turned to this page for the benefit of both you and the commission, but I'd like to ask you, based on your understanding, does the health order have certain rules for employees who regularly work in high-risk settings?
Yes.
And what is your understanding of those rules?
So basically for the San Francisco Fire Department, our members were to be vaccinated by October 13th, which meant having their final 2-dose injection or 1 dose of Johnson & Johnson injection 2 weeks prior to that.
Now, as the chief of the department, do you believe it is important for firefighters to be vaccinated before they enter a high-risk setting?
Absolutely. We are here for the public's well-being. including its health and safety. So I think it's very important that the fire department and all our members follow the advice of the public health officer in the city and county of San Francisco.
Is there any way operationally that the department could guarantee that an unvaccinated firefighter would not enter a high-risk setting?
There is no way to guarantee that. No, absolutely not. We can't leave a firefighter out from a particular call because we're going into a high risk facility, or because we're going to work with someone who is at high risk for COVID. There's no way to leave, we have to leave a firefighter back. We have to show up with, our full staffing and the full intention to do the best we can for the public.
Chief, have you consulted with anyone in the department about the health effects of vaccination?
Yes, I have spoken to our department physician, Dr. Jennifer Brokaw, and not in a little while, but I have spoken with her, yes.
Based on your conversation with Dr. Brokaw, what do you understand to be the public health benefits of vaccination?
So in many people, the vaccine prevents COVID, and it also prevents people from getting super sick from COVID, long-term COVID.
I'd like to make an objection.
And, I'm speaking.
Please state your objection.
My objection is that I requested I requested discovery of who she discussed all of these policies with to make her decision, and I was denied. So I object to this line of questioning. These people aren't here to cross-reference, to cross-examine, to question.
Mr. Yan, your response?
Yes, this is not a civil jury trial. The department has provided all discovery that it was obligated to provide under the commission rules. The commission and yourself, Madam President, reviewed Mr. Crotty's motion to compel discovery and denied it. So therefore, and on top of that, Chief Nicholson is not necessarily testifying to the truth of the safety of the vaccines, simply to her motivations and understanding as to the necessity of the health order.
The objection's overruled. Please continue, Chief.
Can you ask the question again, please?
Sure, Chief. Based on your conversation with Dr. Brokaw, what do you understand to be the public health benefits of vaccination?
So my understanding of the public health benefits are that it reduces COVID transmission, and it reduces the severity of the disease, as well as it reduces the incidence of the disease.
Based on your conversation with Dr. Brokaw, are you aware of any dangers associated with the vaccines?
No, I'm not.
Chief Nicholson, based on your understanding of the health order, does the health order permit any exemptions to the vaccine requirement?
The health order does permit exemptions to medical or sincerely held religious beliefs.
And Chief, did you personally have any role in deciding whether a specific firefighter qualified for an exemption?
I had no role in that.
Now, turning the attention of the commission to page 27, or bait stamp 27 of the department's exhibits.
Okay.
Chief, does the health order require the department to accommodate firefighters who receive an exemption?
It does not require us to accommodate. It lists several things in here in terms of accommodation, but it does not require us to accommodate.
Okay, now I'm looking at the pages Bait stamped Crotty 26 and Crotty 27. There appear to be 4 factors listed here to consider when determining whether an employee who works in a high-risk setting can be accommodated. I'd like to walk through those factors with you, beginning with factor A. In the regular course of his duties, would firefighter Crotty come into contact with persons whose vaccination status is unknown, who are not yet eligible for the vaccine, or who are members of a vulnerable population, such as the elderly, incarcerated, or acute care patients?
Yes.
Factor B on Bait stamp 27. Does the department have the resources to regularly test unvaccinated firefighters to ensure that they do not pose a public health risk?
No, we do not.
Factor C, can the department ensure 100% compliance with the mask mandate during work hours?
No, that is impossible to do.
And finally, as to factor D, if you allowed firefighter Crotty to remain unvaccinated, would that compromise workplace safety, decrease workplace efficiency, or require other personnel to do more than their fair share of potentially hazardous or burdensome work?
Yes. I mean, I'll give you an example. It could cause other people to, pick up the slack if firefighter Crotty were not allowed to go into a high-risk setting. That's just one example of it.
So based on these factors and based on the advice of Dr. Brokaw, did the department make a decision on whether it was possible to accommodate unvaccinated firefighters?
We did, and we determined that it was not possible to accommodate unvaccinated firefighters.
Okay, Chief Nicholson, I'd like you to turn your attention now to the document that's been bait stamped Crotty 0039.
Okay.
And for the benefit of the commission, everyone should be looking at a page with the title San Francisco Fire Department General Order. Chief Nicholson, are you familiar with this document?
Yes, I signed it back in August last year.
And what is this document?
So it is basically ordering our people to comply with the health order and what that health order is. And in addition, to comply with the vaccination status reporting, and there are timeframes for those.
Are all employees of the department required to familiarize themselves with this general order?
Yes.
And are all employees of the department required to comply with the general order?
Yes.
What rank is firefighter Crotty?
He is an H2 firefighter.
And does the general order apply to H2 firefighters?
Yes, it does.
Did the department take any steps to notify firefighters like Mr. Crotty of their duties under the health order and the general order?
Yes, we did. So we sent emails out. We had it distributed via the chain of command. It is also on everyone's HRMS, Human Resources Management Systems page.
Objection. This
for
is
them
about objection.
to sign.
Objection.
No, overruled.
Why are we testifying to what you sent to other people? This is about your testimony.
Because she's testifying what was sent and she's entitled to testify to that. So your objection's overruled. Please continue, Chief Nicholson.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes. So we sent it to via email to all the stations. We put it on the Human Resources Management System, so it's on everybody's page when they open up that portal. And we had we made phone calls to those who were not compliant, and we also had face-to-face or we had one-on-one meetings with with many of these people.
Chief Nicholson and ladies and gentlemen of the commission, I'd like to turn everyone's attention to the page that's been bait stamped Crotty 0002.
Okay.
For the benefit of everyone, we should all be staring at we should all be looking at a letter dated July 29th, 2022 to the San Francisco Fire Commission. Chief Nicholson, do you recognize this letter?
I do. It is my recommendation to the Fire Commission for a non-disciplinary separation of firefighter Michael Crotty.
Did Firefighter Crotty comply with the vaccination requirement in the health order and the general order by October 13th, 2021?
He did not.
And how do you know that?
Well, everyone had to report their vaccination status, and we never got any of that information from Firefighter Crotty.
Chief Nicholson, I'd like to turn your attention now to the document that's been bait stamped Crotty 0004.
Okay.
You should be looking at a letter directed to Firefighter Michael Crotty, dated July 6th, 2022. Do you recognize this letter?
I do.
What is the purpose of this letter?
It is a notification to Firefighter Crotty that he has been recommended for non-disciplinary separation because he failed to comply with the city's vaccination requirement and the health order and the general order.
Now, I see on the first page of this letter, there's a rectangle in the center of the page. What does that rectangle indicate?
So that was basically copy and pasted from our People and Pay portal, which is where all of our members were required to enter their vaccination status. And there is no information other than not vaccinated because he never reported being vaccinated.
Chief Nicholson, I'd like to turn your attention now to the second to last page of the exhibits. This is the page that's in marked Crotty 263.
Okay.
For the benefit of the commission, you should be looking at a letter dated September 9th, 2021 to Sean Buford, president of Local 798, sent by artist Graham, CCing yourself and several other individuals. Have you seen this letter before?
Yes.
What is your understanding of the purpose of this letter?
Basically, the Department of Human Resources worked with Local 798 regarding their proposals on the COVID-19 vaccination policy and health order.
Now, finally, Chief, I'd like to ask you to respond to a couple of the criticisms that have been lodged against you, both by Mr. Crotty and by members of the public, as we heard during the initial public comment. So at the beginning of this hearing, you may have heard members of the public accuse you of acting politically. Did your personal politics play any role in your decision to recommend Firefighter Crotty's separation?
No, they played no role.
Now, you also heard some members of the public suggest that the actions taken by the fire department were, had an ulterior motive to destroy the careers of certain firefighters, including Firefighter Crotty. What is your response to that criticism?
That is absolutely ridiculous. I nor the department, we are not destroying anybody's career. All Firefighter Crotty had to do was go and get a vaccination, and we would not be here. I am, and the department is following the mandated health order in the city and county of San Francisco.
Thank you. No further questions subject to rebuttal or subject to redirect.
All right. Firefighter Crotty, questions for the chief, please.
Good morning, Chief Nicholson.
Good morning.
So, you made a statement that, before I get into what I've prepared, do you remember early in the pandemic when there was a shortage of PPE, personal protective equipment, and that there was no vaccines available, and that we were seeing video of people dropping dead in China all over the place and being placed into incinerators? Remember that time?
Objection, relevance.
I'll overrule the objection. You can answer, Chief Nicholson.
Do you know
So
Wait, let her answer.
I know that for a time there was no vaccine. And I also know that the city had to work really hard to secure PPE for our members, for the entire city. And we did so.
Yes. So do you know what position I held at Station 33?
You were on the engine, that's all I know.
I was the EMT. So as the EMT, the protocol was 1 in, 3 stay out. So when we thought that everyone was going to die from this virus if they contracted it, I went in alone.
Objection, the firefighter is testifying. There's no question. This is argumentative.
That he is testifying. You need to ask questions, and you will have your ability to make whatever kind of statement you wish when you present your case.
Very good. So do you remember the time that there was no vaccine available? And then the protocol was that we go in, 3 stay out, and 1 goes in, unknowing if the virus is going to kill us. Remember that time that we had the general order?
So I know we took precautions where we could.
Okay, but that you're affirming that during that time when we thought that people were going to die and we didn't have a vaccine and we had a shortage of PPE, that responding to a medical emergency, the EMT goes in alone, correct?
Well, let me just first say that people were dying, and yes, we made some changes to protect our members as best we could. But
Right.
a lot of times all of our members had to go in.
Did you look at my record and see how many times I called in sick during the pandemic? Knowing that I was going to die, thinking I was going to die, and I showed up. Actually, do you know that I broke down crying to my wife, saying I'm not going to make it out of this?
Objection, argumentative.
I'm asking a question.
I'm going to overrule the objection.
Okay, well, that's a fact.
I
Then
have
went
no
to
knowledge
work
of you.
anyway.
I have no knowledge of you breaking down and crying to your wife. I also did not look up your history of attendance.
Very good. Thank you. In the interest of time and for a clear record during questioning, when I refer to vaccines or vaccination, I'm referring to COVID-19 vaccines and vaccination. Unless otherwise specified, and when I refer to the health order, I'm referring to San Francisco Health Order C-19-07Y. When I refer to the Charter, Civil Service Rules, or the Administrative Code, I'm speaking of the ones that govern San Francisco. Please turn to Exhibit U in the binder.
This is your binder, I presume, Firefighter Crotty?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Is everyone there?
Nope. Okay.
Okay, this is the health order at issue, and it's titled Safer Return to Together Order. Do you find it a little tone deaf and disrespectful to first responders like I did that named it that, since we never left the community during the pandemic and worked through the most dangerous parts before there were effective treatments and vaccines?
I do not, because this was a health order for everyone, and the safer return together is in parentheses at the bottom.
This order has been revised countless times, correct?
It has been revised a number of times,
Do you
yes.
know when the most recent revision was written?
Well, this one says June 16th, 2022, but I don't know.
Do you know why I wasn't given the most updated version to use during this hearing?
No.
Can you please read the top of page 2, the first partial sentence?
Immunity wanes several months after completion of the initial vaccine series. That is, as you stated, a partial sentence and does not take everything into, it's out of context, basically.
Okay. So the
I'm
health
sorry,
officer,
I need to interrupt for a moment because I noticed this with a couple other exhibits. My exhibit U is the COVID-19 vaccination policy issued June 23rd, 2021, amended August 6th, 2021.
That should be V. The V looks like a U in mine as well.
okay, I apologize, putting these together. Some of them were arranged like a phone book would be, instead of having the letter on top, it would be under the bottom. So some of you have it in different order.
Well, my U and my V as in Victor are the same documents.
I
Our
apologize for that.
copies are the same, so I'm
I apologize for that.
trying to find the exhibit you're referencing.
Okay.
So what is the date on the top?
It's the health order in the department's binder. It's June
So
6th.
in the department's binder, it is 0009.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, the health order states that being up to date on vaccination is the most effective method to prevent transmission, right?
I don't know exactly what it says. I have not read it in a long time, so I'd have to go through it thoroughly.
Okay, isn't it true most public health officials in the CDC now acknowledge that the primary series vaccination doesn't halt transmission of the infection?
So I am not a physician, nor am I here to testify about medical issues or research issues. I am here because you failed to follow a direct order and you failed to follow the health order and a general order.
Okay, and even being boosted does not halt transmission, correct?
Yeah, objection lacks foundation and personal knowledge. Chief has already said that she doesn't have the medical background to answer these types of questions.
Okay, so I was denied a medical expert in my trial, and if she doesn't know, who knows?
So I can answer that. If I may, Madam President, you are on mute.
I shouldn't have been. The objection is overruled. It's reliable hearsay. She's saying what she knew. She's
Okay.
not representing it to be anything other than that.
Okay.
So it is my understanding that the vaccines have prevented COVID in many cases, have reduced the severity of COVID in many cases, and have reduced the transmission of COVID.
Objection, hearsay. She's not a medical expert, and all of that is nonsense.
Overruled.
You asked, I answered.
Interesting. It's true. Is it true that the department physician recently had to put off several firefighters for a second and third time for COVID?
I don't have that information in front of me. But we often put people off for, not for COVID, but for possible exposure.
Jennifer Brokaw's account on social media said that she had many firefighters out for the second and third time. So I'll answer for you. The answer is yes. Isn't it true that you have a good number of firefighters who are currently not boosted?
I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Okay, last I heard it was 400.
Okay.
Yeah.
Madam President, I move to strike all of Firefighter Crotty's testimony.
Yeah, you can give your own testimony, but you're not, hear your question in Firefighter Crotty. So yes, the motion to strike is granted.
Because, okay, very good. I accept. Wouldn't that mean that firefighters entering high-risk settings with little or no immunity to COVID-19? An unknown number. Wouldn't that mean that they have little or no immunity to COVID-19?
Wouldn't what mean that they have little or
That
no
if you
immunity
have
to COVID-19?
If you have any unboosted members in the department.
So
Let's just say that a firefighter at the beginning of the rollout of the vaccine got a J&J one shot, but hasn't had a booster. And the CDC says that the efficacy of the vaccine wanes after several months. Wouldn't it mean that you have firefighters entering high-risk areas with little or no immunity at this point, a year and a half later?
I don't know the facts of that. I don't know how many people are not boosted. And I also, again, am not here to testify about, I'm here because you failed to follow a
You're
direct
talking about
order,
the health order.
a general order. I'm not finished. A direct order and a general order and the health order. That is why I am here to testify. I'm
Okay.
not a medical expert.
Right, and I was denied.
I don't know where you're coming up with this information.
Okay, I was denied a medical expert to testify.
Okay, you can save that for your testimony. You need to ask a question.
Have you
Mr.
seen all
Crotty.
the information from the CDC and scientific studies that show that there's good protection from COVID through natural immunity?
I have not, and again, I'm not here to testify about what the CDC says or does. I am here because the City and County of San Francisco's health officer put out a directive and you failed to follow it.
Did you look at my exhibits EE and FF?
I did not.
Okay, I don't think I'll have time to go through all that because of my time restrictions, but at least you and the Fire Commission can take a look at all those materials and see that natural immunity is not a conspiracy theory. Please turn to page 15 of Exhibit U.
I only have up to page 13 of Exhibit U.
And I only have till page 7 of Exhibit U.
Okay.
So if you want to identify it in some other way,
So I'm going to say, is it schools and programs for children and youth? Is that the top of the page?
No, yes, it is.
So that would be 0023, Madam President, in the health order
Thank you, Chief.
of the city's exhibits.
thank you.
Okay, so, are you familiar with Section 6 of the health order?
I have seen it before, yes,
Okay.
high risk settings.
So this is the section that you believe I violated, correct?
You violated the health order and the general order, period.
Okay, so can you read the bottom of page section I? Starting with businesses.
Businesses and governmental entities with personnel in high-risk settings must.
Okay,
That's all there is on that page.
okay, so who is the health officer directing this obligation to?
The order of the health officer is, well, this is for all personnel that work for the city and county of San Francisco.
Okay, so actually, would you agree that this directive is aimed at businesses, governmental entities with personnel in high-risk settings, not to the employees themselves?
This is one particular part of the health order. So I will not stipulate to that because I don't have a.
Yeah, I'm talking about section 6, so you can stipulate.
Objection. The firefighter's been repeatedly cutting off the chief. I'd ask the commission.
I'm assisting her, Mr.
Once,
Yang.
and now he's cutting me off. I'd ask the commission to please admonish Mr. Crotty to please allow all speakers to finish their statements before continuing.
Yes, Mr. Crotty, please. Let her finish and you can follow up.
I'm sorry. Okay, I don't know my way around the courtroom, what's acceptable and what isn't. Please bear with me.
So what is the question?
Would you agree that the directive is aimed at businesses and governmental entities with personnel in high-risk settings, not to the employees themselves? That section only.
That is what it says. Businesses and governmental entities with personnel in high-risk settings must.
Okay, so in our case, the fire department is a governmental entity which the health order is imposing obligations about their personnel, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so as far as you know, I'm an individual and not a business or governmental agency, correct?
You work for a governmental agency. You are a civil servant and a public safety employee.
Okay, so do you think I violated the health order in any way?
You absolutely did violate the health order, and you violated the general order by not getting vaccinated.
Okay, can you please turn to page 16 and read number 1, please?
So I believe this is 0024, Madam President.
Thank you.
As of September 30th, 2021, ascertained vaccination status of all personnel in high-risk settings who routinely work on site.
Okay, so who needed to ascertain that information, me or the fire department?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Oh, who needed to ascertain that information, me or the fire department?
So the
Objection.
fire
Madam President, I object. This line of questioning goes to a legal conclusion. He's asking the chief to interpret a legal document that goes to the conclusion, the ultimate issue at this in this hearing.
I'm gonna overrule the objection to the extent the chief can answer it.
So we, in the general order, we directed all of our employees to let us know their vaccination status through the Secure People and Portal site.
Okay, so with
And
all
you
due
did not
respect-
do that, to my knowledge.
Okay, so with all due respect, we're not talking about the general order, we're talking about the health order at this point. Okay, so anyway, let's go to number 2, and if you could be so kind as to read number 2, please.
Sure. As of September 30th, 2021, ensure that before entering or working in
Slow down, Chief, please.
Slow down. I
Please.
will slow down. My apologies to our
That's
court
okay.
reporter. As of September 30th, 2021, ensure that before entering or working in any high-risk setting, all personnel who routinely work on site have received their first dose of a one-dose COVID-19 vaccine regimen or their second dose of a two-dose COVID-19 vaccine regimen authorized to prevent COVID-19 by the FDA, including by way of an emergency use authorization or by the World Health Organization. Until such personnel are vaccinated with a complete initial series, they are subject to at least the minimum public health and safety requirements in subsection A, I, V below, and
Okay, so I think we have to spend some time on this one because there's a lot to digest. First, I want to ask who the health order is speaking to when they write that they must ensure that personnel comply with certain conditions before entering high-risk settings. It's directed at governmental agencies, right?
it is directed at all the employees of the city and county of San Francisco.
It's specifically directed to the government entities, right?
That's your testimony, not mine.
Okay. The health order officer's order directs the fire department in our case, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
The health officer's order directs the fire department in our case, correct? About their personnel?
Sure.
Okay. Is it your testimony that you believe that if you permitted your employees to enter high-risk settings after missing the September 30th deadline, it would be a violation of the health order based on their vaccination status alone?
Okay, that was a really long question. Can you
Okay,
ask that again,
so
please?
sorry. Is it your testimony that you believe that if you permitted your employees to enter high-risk settings after missing the September 30th deadline, it would be a violation of the health order based on their vaccination status alone?
So if one of my members was not fully vaccinated, which means their first dose of the one dose or their second dose of the two dose by September 30th, as of October 13th, they were not permitted to go into high-risk settings based on the health order and based on them not being vaccinated.
Okay, so assuming for the sake of argument you're correct in your interpretation of the health order, that by permitting unvaccinated personnel to enter or work in high-risk area, it's a violation of the health order on its own. Who would be violating the health officer's directive, the governmental agency or the individual?
The individual and the governmental agency is responsible for that individual to ensure that that individual complies with the health order.
Okay. So employees are individuals, not governmental entities, right?
That's a very broad question, frankly, that I think somebody could write a dissertation on.
Employees are individuals, not governmental agencies, correct?
When someone works for a public safety agency, they must abide by the rules and regulations and policies of that public safety agency. And when someone works for, as for an example, the city and county of San Francisco, they must abide by all of those rules and regulations, whether they are a quote unquote individual or not. They must abide by all of that.
Okay, so employees like me, because we're individuals, fall under Section 3 of the health order, correct?
I don't know what Section 3 you're talking about. There's a lot of Section 3s in here.
Okay, so let me just save some time here. Do you know that the health officer has only strongly urged individuals to be vaccinated and up to date with a booster? That's in Section 3, page 10 if needed.
So I think we're looking at 0018 in the Crotty 0018. Mike, at the top it says general requirements for individuals. Is that right?
Um, page 10. Okay, you know what? Hang on a second. Yeah, so page 10, vaccination. Okay, so it is page 10 and the order of the health officer, it starts with general requirements for individuals. 3, A,
Yes.
vaccination. So individuals are strongly urged to be up to date on vaccination, meaning it's further provided in Section 1 that they are vaccinated with a complete initial series as soon as they are booster eligible, receive their recommended boosters, in particular people at risk for severe illness with COVID-19, such as
Please slow down a little, Mr. Crotty.
Okay, so basically that's enough, but it's only they're strongly urged is the wording, not mandated. So that part seems to apply to firefighters, correct?
So this is one section of the health order, and I don't know if this is being taken out of context or not. I'd have to look at, again, review the entire health order. But it may say that individuals are strongly urged, but individuals were told there would be consequences for not being vaccinated.
Right. Okay. So let's say for whatever reason, an individual who works for the fire department can or won't get these shots. Do you think the department would be violating the health order if you let them enter a high risk area?
Yes, after the dates that they were due, yes.
Do you know that it's only a strong recommendation and that masking and testing were available, and now that testing is no longer a requirement, just masking?
So again, you're sort of testifying, and what I can say is that the reason I am here today is because you did not follow the order of the health officer, you did not follow the general order of the San Francisco Fire Department.
Okay.
Things have changed over the past 2 years. That's not what we're here for. We are here because you violated the health order and the general order.
Okay. So do you think the health officer wrote somewhere in the order that unvaccinated personnel can never enter high risk areas?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
Okay, so without going into specifics, are there circumstances where the health officer permits an unvaccinated employee to enter high-risk areas?
If certain qualifications are met, and it was determined that the San Francisco Fire Department could not meet those requirements.
Okay, so it's a little bit confusing because It used to be that exempt personnel needed to at least test and mask. It was the June health order in evidence, but now they only have to wear a mask for the September health order, which we're not using for some reason. And I never got an answer to why that is, but
May I speak to that, Mike? I would imagine we're not using that because that did not apply a year and a half or 2 years ago whenever you first violated this order. So I would imagine, I mean, maybe the attorney can speak to that more, but I imagine we're using what was in place when you violated this order.
okay, so the whole point of this is to because you can't say I do my job, but the science has evolved and changed, and new revelations have come in and new orders have been written. So I'm being disciplined and terminated for the old science, not the new science. Is that correct?
You are being disciplined and terminated because you failed to follow a direct order from a paramilitary organization. And when you do that, you cannot be trusted to follow other orders, whether at a fire or a medical incident or some other critical incident. Our employees do not get to pick and choose which orders they follow and which they do not. That is not how public safety works.
Okay, so when Mr. Yan filed charges, it was about the health order, and now you're charging me with refusing and disobeying a direct order. So here we are. This is disciplinary now. Failure to follow a direct order from a superior is disciplinary, and you're proceeding with a non-disciplinary court.
Madam President, objection.
Yeah, you need to ask a question, Mr. Crotty.
Okay, so I want to break down some of the circumstances where the health order permits unvaccinated personnel to enter high-risk areas. First, would you agree that one instance would be if the individual has a medical exemption from taking the vaccines approved by the employer and they wear a mask while entering them, there is no violation?
So that is one of the items in this health order. One item does not make the entire rule.
Okay, so when you say I disobeyed an order, I followed the health order and the general order, and I filed a religious exemption. And now you're saying that I disobeyed a direct order.
You
But-
disobeyed a direct order that came out of the health order. That is correct.
Okay, so would you also agree that another instance would be if an individual had a religious exemption from taking the vaccines approved by their employer and they wear a mask while entering, then there is no violation?
I would not agree with that, no.
Well, the health order says that if an employee is granted a religious exemption, then they would only need to wear a mask while entering a high-risk area, and there would be no violation.
Again, that is, you are just picking and choosing things out of the health order, and you are not looking at it in its entirety. There are other points in that section that you're referring to.
Okay, so these are the minimum requires that I'm talking about. We've already read that. As far as the health order is concerned, those individuals would be called exempt personnel, correct?
I don't understand the question.
In the health order, someone that was granted a religious or medical exemption would be referred to repeatedly through the health order as an exempt personnel.
So yes, an exempt is different from an accommodation or an accommodated person.
Okay. If you know, is there even one exempt personnel who exists in the city and county of San Francisco Civil Service?
I don't have any knowledge of that.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you about one more instance. The unvaccinated can enter high-risk areas per the health order. And it may be a little more contentious, so let's take the slow. I want to redirect your attention to page 17, the last sentence on that page under 3.
So I think this is Crotty 0025.
It starts at the top with high-risk settings, and then section 3, or triple I,
Yes.
businesses and governmental entities with personnel. Well, the last, at the bottom of that, until such can you read until such personnel?
I can.
Thank you.
Until such personnel are vaccinated with a complete initial series, they are subject to at least the minimum public health and safety requirements in subsection A, I, V below.
Okay, so thank you. You understand those requirements are masking and testing, correct?
Those are part of them.
Okay, and in fact, testing has been eliminated in the most recent version, correct?
We're not speaking about the most recent version. Again, we're speaking about from well over a year ago.
Okay, so do you think that the health officer's statement about imposing these minimum requirements until personnel complete their vaccination series could have a broad interpretation?
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you say that again?
Think that until personnel complete their vaccination series could have a broad interpretation?
I don't know what that means.
Okay, do you think the word...
That's a very broad question.
Okay, I understand that. Do you think that the word until only covers a certain time period?
I don't even know how to answer that.
Okay.
But what I can say is that what it says in this sentence, they are subject to at least the minimum. This is the minimum.
Okay.
Does not say people get to go back to work by just following the minimum, but this is the minimum.
Okay. Is it true that the health order doesn't expressly say there is a time period that these minimum requirements apply to non-exempt personnel who have not finished a complete series?
So I'm confused by that question as well.
Okay, that word
ask it again.
That word, I'm just going to move past that one. That word until could refer to days, months, years, or until the emergency is over for all you know, correct?
It refers to whatever the health order says it refers to, whatever the health officer says it refers to.
Okay, so I'd like to take this opportunity to state for the record that I was denied having the author of the health order testify. She could have cleared up what she meant by this sentence, but I was denied the opportunity to call her by the hearing officer. The chief is either guessing what the health officer meant or is relying on information that was not turned over.
Are you
Objection.
testifying again?
Objection.
I'm making a record. I'm not allowed to make a record.
I indicated before when ruling on your motions that those rulings would be included in the record, and they are. So there's no need to make another statement.
Okay, thank you. Would you agree that we would need the author of this document to explain what her actual intention for adding this caveat?
No.
Do you think it's possible the health officer intentionally kept it broad for a reason?
I can't speak to what the health officer thought or did.
Do you think it's possible the health officer put this sentence in because she may have known there might be unresolved issues regarding the process of exempt personnel?
I have no knowledge of that.
Do you think she wanted to make the order unnecessarily restrictive?
I have no knowledge of that.
The health officer gave governmental entities permission to make conditions more restrictive if they thought it was appropriate, right?
So again, it says at least these 4 things. So yes, it could be made more restrictive. That is correct.
Okay, and you took that opportunity to make them more restrictive, correct?
No, we could not meet all 4 of those conditions.
I'm sorry, what?
On Crotty 0026, which is also page 18 of the health order, at the bottom, A, and the next page, B, C, and D. So we could not meet each and every one of those conditions.
So you made it more restrictive, correct?
No, I didn't make anything more restrictive. We could not meet those conditions.
Okay. Carol Eisen, for some reason, decided to make them more restrictive by creating a policy.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes. Carol Eisen, for some reason, decided to make them more restrictive by creating a policy that all employees take the vaccine regardless of where they worked, correct?
I don't know where you are reading this from, so do you have a document that says that, or?
You do realize that every single city employee had to take the vaccine, right? No exceptions, right?
I know what I know about the fire department.
Okay. Fire department personnel entering high-risk areas more restrictive than the health officer. Sorry. You recommended termination for at least 3 employees who had what the city has termed qualifying religious beliefs because you chose a higher level of protection than the health officer indicated was necessary, correct?
No. Again, could not meet the minimum standards of A, B, C, and D.
Do you know what? Do you know? Do you know why Carol Eisen made the vaccination requirements for employees more restrictive than the health officer mandated?
Objection. The question assumes facts that aren't in evidence.
Yeah, that's sustained.
Okay. In reference to health order, not the DHR policy or the GO, if I had been granted an exemption from vaccination, would I be able to work in my classification based on the minimum requirements laid out in the health order? I'm not talking about the health order. I'm only referring to the minimum requirements in this question.
No, we are unable to meet those minimum requirements.
Understanding that you thought it was necessary to go beyond the minimum requirements laid out in Section 6, I am asking that you could still be in compliance if you just had employees mask up.
So you are testifying that I went beyond the minimum standards, and I don't think you should testify for me. So can you rephrase that question, please?
Okay, I'm just asking, and I said I'm just asking that you could still be in compliance if you had employees mask up, correct?
Incorrect.
Does the health order give permission to governmental entities to allow exemptions from being fully vaccinated even when entering high-risk areas?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Does the health order give permission to governmental entities to allow exemptions from being fully vaccinated even when entering high-risk areas?
I don't know.
Wouldn't adhering to the minimum requirements keep the department in compliance with the health order?
Objection. Vague and ambiguous. I don't understand the question.
Please rephrase the question, Mr. Crotty.
Okay, so
And you want to watch your time too.
okay, so wouldn't adhering to the minimum requirements keep the department in compliance with the health order?
Adhering to what minimum requirements?
Minimum requirements
Can you
laid
be
out in the health.
specific? Can you be specific
Masking
about
and
what the,
testing.
excuse me,
You can't,
excuse me.
you can't talk over each other. One at a time, please.
Can you please be specific about those minimum requirements that you are referring to in your question?
Masking when entering, as we did for over a year before we had the vaccination.
No, we would not be in compliance.
Okay. Bear with me, please turn to Exhibit R. And it might be Q in some S in some binders, sorry.
So what is it?
Okay, it's the EEOC, Employer Compliance Manual.
Okay.
Okay. Do you know anything about the religious-based declination I submitted to personnel?
No, I had no part in the religious exemption process.
Okay. I assume you know that the determination was made that my documentation was insufficient to show a conflict between vaccination and my beliefs, right?
What I believe is that you were not, I don't see you as having been granted an exemption.
Correct. Thank you. Do you know what part of the EEOC, DFEH, or court's guidance requires an employee to prove a conflict between vaccination and their organized religion?
Again, I had no part in this and I have no knowledge of that.
Okay. So on page 1 of Exhibit R, can you scan through about midway and find the bracketed numbered 6?
Okay.
Okay. So it states, and I can let you read it unless you want me to read it.
I'm happy to read it.
Okay.
These protections apply whether the religious beliefs or practices in question are common or non-traditional, and regardless of whether they are recognized by any organized religion.
Okay. Do you have any idea why HR abruptly halted the interactive process of discussing my religious beliefs?
Objection assumes facts not in evidence.
I'm gonna overrule it to the extent the chief knows.
I have zero knowledge of that.
Okay. So do you know what Lucy Chu meant when she wrote in an email to me, Exhibit K, that the information I provided doesn't show a conflict between vaccination requirements and a religious belief?
Again, I had no part in determining religious exemption.
Okay, but if we go to section K, and we don't need to go there, but I was the information I provided, according to her, doesn't show a conflict between the vaccination requirement and a religious belief. I'm not testifying, I'm just saying what she said. Does that sound like an opinion?
Again, I have no knowledge of this, so I can't just comment on one statement.
Understood.
I would have to take the entirety of all of that into consideration.
Okay. So as far as you know, the negative determination by HR was not that my beliefs were insincere or secular, correct?
Again, I have no knowledge of the religious exemption process.
All right. If HR and the city attorney had found my religious beliefs to be so-called qualifying, it would not have mattered because as far as your recommendation is concerned, you as chief of the department denied all access to accommodations, correct?
I took them on we took them on a one at a time basis, and we determined that we could not accommodate people.
Okay. The department denied me an opportunity to participate in an interactive process related to religious accommodations, correct?
I have no knowledge of that. That's you testifying, not me.
It was a question, not testimony.
Don't argue.
I'm being accused of testifying. I'm just setting the record
You
straight.
were. So just ask a question.
Okay. Was denying all accommodations a decision you came to on your own?
No.
Did anyone direct you not to follow accommodations? And I want to make it clear that I'm only asking about accommodations, not directions to HR about finding the employee's reasons for declination to be qualifying.
Sorry, Mike, can you ask the question again? There was a lot
Yes.
at the end of it, so.
Okay, so did anyone direct you not to allow accommodations? And I want to make it clear that I'm only asking about accommodations, not directions to HR about finding the employee's reasons for declination to be qualifying or not.
No, no one directed me.
Okay, so did Carol Eisen prevent you in any way from engaging in an interactive process or providing accommodations for unvaccinated firefighters?
Carol Eisen had no role in my determination or the department's determination.
Did anyone?
So there are some conversations that are attorney-client privilege and I cannot speak to.
Okay, so did the mayor or any of her designees prevent you in any way from engaging in an interactive process or approving accommodations for unvaccinated firefighters?
No.
Okay. Do you think it's a strange coincidence that over 100 city department heads independently decided that the health officer was being too conservative with accommodation parameters?
Objection assumes facts.
Did
Judgment
anyone,
sustained.
did
Unless
anyone,
she knows.
I
okay,
have no knowledge of that.
okay. So did anyone in your command staff, did you tell anyone in your command staff to contact the police department to find out why they granted accommodations?
I don't have any recollection of that.
Do you know if anyone in your command staff contacted the police department to interfere with the religious accommodation process?
I have no knowledge of that.
Do you know if Chief Bello was heard saying, I'm going down to the police department to crack heads and straighten them out because they're effing everything up for us?
I have no knowledge of that.
Okay. Did anyone advise you not about your responsibilities under DFEH and EEOC about interactive process for religious accommodation?
I had nothing to do with the religious accommodation. I have no knowledge of that.
Okay, can we go to Exhibit R, please? We're already there. The first page. Can you locate number 4 in brackets about mid-page and tell how the Supreme Court defines under undue hardship when it comes to religious accommodation?
My exhibit R, as in Robert, is the July 29th, 2022 letter. It's actually just one page. It's not the whole letter addressed to the San Francisco Fire Commission. And
Okay.
it doesn't tell me even who it's from.
Okay, so I'm referring to R, EEOC Employer Compliance Manual.
Well,
Can we stop the clock, please, Maureen, if you can, possibly, because this confusion is eating at my time, and I apologize.
well, no, we can't stop the clock, and it's in my binder, that is Q.
Okay. I'm sorry. There was some mixed up, unfortunately. We're under time constraints. So anyway, are we all there? EEOC Employee Compliance
Yes.
Manual. Are we all there? Okay. Chief, can you read the 4 bracket?
I can.
Okay.
Undue hardship, in quotations, under Title VII is not defined in the statute, but has been defined by the Supreme Court as, quote, more than a de minimis cost, end quote.
Okay, thank you. Can you explain what the de minimis cost the department would incur if they accommodated firefighters' religious beliefs?
I have no knowledge of this process or this document, so I can't speak to it, and I'm not an attorney.
Okay, we're going to move past there. Please turn to Exhibit L. some of you might have L as M. So if it is M, then flip back, and I transposed them. Are we all at Exhibit L?
Yes,
How do you identify Exhibit L?
It is an email from.
Yes.
Okay. So, do you remember back in August 21, I sent you a letter? Do you recognize page 2 and 3 of Exhibit L?
I read a lot of things, so I'm sure I read it.
Okay. So, in this letter, I notified you of potential religious discrimination. Did you investigate?
So I turned this letter over to the folks that understand this better than I do.
Okay. I notified you of potential harassment in it. Did you investigate?
I don't know if it was investigated or not.
Okay. I expressed to you that I was concerned about confidentiality of the process, didn't I?
At some point, I heard that, yes.
Okay, and you didn't feel it was appropriate that you had no intention of protecting my confidential file?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay. Did you file an EEO complaint on my behalf?
I personally did not.
Okay, so when a report comes from a subordinate to to a superior, isn't it a serious violation of the law to not investigate it?
I have no knowledge of what you're referring to, so.
Didn't the department just go through a training about how superiors are supposed to handle complaints of harassment or discrimination or persecution?
I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna stop at this time. Madam Secretary, can I have a time check, please?
Yes, firefighter Crotty has 11 minutes and 28 seconds left.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
I think at this time it's 12:09. We're gonna take a break for lunch, and is everybody okay with 45 minutes?
Yes.
That's fine with the department, Madam President.
All right,
that's-
and
that's
Vice
fine.
President Nacasio gave me a thumbs up. Commissioner Morgan, thumbs up. All right. Seeing no objection.
12:55.
Yes, please, 12:55. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody. It appears that everybody who was previously present is again present, and the record should so reflect. And Mr. Crotty, I want to remind you, you have 11 minutes left. So
Thank you.
I don't know how you wish to use those 11 minutes, but just know that you're coming up against the time limit there.
Understood, thank you.
Okay, all right. The chief is present, as I said, and I'll remind you, Chief, you remain under oath.
Yes, Madam President.
Okay, so Chief, getting back to the conversation we had before the break, and ask you a question. While on the break, did you discuss that letter or your testimony about the subject with anyone present or absent from this proceeding?
I did not discuss this letter with anyone, no.
Okay. Can I ask who you sent my letter to?
I don't remember, but it would have been either HR or DA or our HR or our city attorney, and they would then forward it to EEO, the EEO claims department, and they would conduct an investigation that I wouldn't necessarily know about.
Okay, so you didn't hear back from anyone that they received or they didn't receive it. Did you send it via courier or email to that person?
I don't recall.
No?
I don't
Okay.
recall.
So to the best of your ability to surmise who you would have sent that document to, can you take an estimated guess as to who that would have been?
Objection. Question expressly calls for speculation.
Yeah, sustained.
It was in her possession, and if this is out of the ordinary, if this is an unusual occurrence, it would seem to me that it would have been her knowledge of who she sent it to. And if she can't remember, who does she think that she would have sent it to, given the circumstances?
And that's her testimony. So ask another question, please.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go to Exhibit O, and it might be Exhibit P in some of your binders. I apologize. It's a letter from Artist Graham, October 18, 2021.
Okay.
Okay. Do you recognize this document?
No, I don't think so. I may have seen it, but I don't know. I can't recall.
All right. Can I direct you to the bottom of the page 1? And do you see where the union accused the department of acting in bad faith?
It is the union's contention. Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you think the department of the city acted in good faith when processing the exemptions?
That is my assumption. Yes, again, I had nothing to do with the exemptions. I have no knowledge of them, and that has been my testimony all along.
Okay. So even though the union was supportive of vaccination, they didn't think the department treated employees fairly in this regard, correct?
Objection. Question calls for hearsay.
You can look at the letter.
If she knows, I'm going to allow her to answer.
Yeah, I don't recall. All I know is what I've seen right here in this document that you've entered.
Okay. So they didn't take the grievance to arbitration because sections 49.8 and 49.9 of the MOU would render a decision by an arbitrator useless for members, correct?
I don't know. I'd have to, again, I don't know.
Okay, can we please move to Exhibit D? And it would be E in some of your binders. I apologize again. That would be removal or discharge of permanent non-probationary employees. Please note for the record, I transposed page 2 and 4 of the exhibit.
I'm sorry, can you identify the
It's
exhibit again?
Yes, Commissioner, it's A8.341, removal or discharge of permanent non-probationary employees.
And if it's not AA, what are you suggesting that it is? Because that's not my AA.
No, it's
D or E?
D or E.
1D and 1E?
Yeah, it's D, but it might be E in your binder. It's written on the bottom corner, D1, D2, but I transposed.
I have under D,
Can we
I
stop the
have
clock, please?
E1, it starts, and under E, I have F0.
So do you see D anywhere?
There.
Can we stop the clock?
Yes, I have D under C
Okay.
as in Charlie.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay.
All right, we're all there?
Yes, good.
Chief, on page 1 of Exhibit D, do you recognize Charter Section A8 .341?
No, I don't.
Okay. So,
Wait, one moment. Let me just, I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't see Commissioner Morgan. Is that just my screen?
can we stop the clock, please?
Yes, we can stop the clock.
I thought he was here.
I thought he
Thank
was
you.
too, but I don't see him now. I just looked up from the binder and he wasn't there. But if other people are seeing him, I don't know.
No, he's
what to
not.
say.
He was here initially.
He may have
I
had
saw him
connection
before.
issues. I believe I saw him as well, Madam President. He may have had connection issues.
Our secretary will check with him.
he's going to shut down his computer and try logging back on.
Thank you. He's back. Can't hear you. Commissioner Morgan? Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Can you hear us?
Can anybody hear Commissioner Morgan?
No.
Okay. Are you unmuted?
He appears to be unmuted on his screen.
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
All right, I'm back. Okay, thank God.
Okay. Let me ask where we left off here, because I'm going to need to ask the court reporter to read back any testimony that you missed. And I was taking notes, so I'm not, I looked up and noticed that you weren't there, but don't know when you fell out off. Because you were there present after lunch, and then at some point you just went away.
Yeah, I lost my microphone, President Feinstein, but I was able to listen to the first 5 minutes after lunch.
All right, Madam Court Reporter, can you give us an estimate then? I don't think we got too far, which is good. So we can have that testimony read back.
Okay, let me see.
Thank you.
So I think we had 11 minutes and 28 seconds left when we started, and he's now down to 6 minutes and 57 seconds.
So that was about 5 minutes.
Yeah, a little less, I guess.
Yeah, through the President Feinstein, I think we left off on Article 0 or O, column O in Firefighter Crotty's defense or appeal.
I don't have, oh,
I believe the commissioner may be referring to Firefighter Crotty's Exhibit O, which would be the letter from the Goyette law firm to Artist Graham.
Right.
I see. And I have it marked differently, so I'm going to do the best. It's dated October 18th, 2021, and I have it as Exhibit N in my binder, N as in Nancy.
okay. Are we kind of off the record right now?
We are, I know you can't look and report at the same time. So yes, we are off the record. The clock is stopped. And so we just need to, we
Do you
just
wanna
need
start
to
where
get
we-
to exhibit, it's either N or O. And if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, just read that, starting from there.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, the question from Mr. Crotty was, we're gonna go to Exhibit O and it might be Exhibit P in some of your binders, I apologize. It's a letter from Artist Graham, October 18, 2021. Answer, yes. Question, do you recognize this document? Answer, no, I don't think so. I may have seen it, but I don't know. I can't recall. Question, can I direct you to the bottom of page 1, and do you see where the union accused the department of acting in bad faith? Answer, it's the union's contention. Yes, I do. Do you think that question, do you think that the department of the city acted in good faith when processing exemptions? Answer, that is my assumption, yes. Again, I had nothing to do with the exemptions. I had no knowledge of them, and that has been my testimony all along. Even though the union was supported of vaccination, they didn't think the department treated its employees fairly in that regard, correct? And Mr. Yan, objection, calls for hearsay. President Feinstein, if she knows, I'm going to allow her to answer. The answer, I don't recall. All I know is what I see here in this document that you've entered. Question by Mr. Crotty. They didn't take the grievance to arbitration because sections 49.8 and 49.9 would render the discrimination by an arbitrator useless, correct? Answer, again, I don't know. And then, Mr. Crotty, can we please move to Exhibit D, and it would be E in some of your binders. I apologize again. That would be removal or discharge of permanent or not sure exactly what that title was. And then it says, please note for the record, I transposed pages 2 and 4 of the exhibit. President Feinstein, can you identify the exhibit again? Mr. Crotty, yes, it's AA341. President Feinstein, it's not my AA. And then Miss Nicholson, she said it's D, E, or E. And President Feinstein, 1D and 1E. Mr. Crotty, it's D, but it might be E in your binder. It's written in the bottom corner, D1 or D2. President Feinstein, I have under D1, I have E1, and it starts, and under E1 or under E, I have F. That makes sense. Mr. Crotty, do you see D anywhere? President Feinstein, yes, I have D under C as in Charlie. Mr. Crotty, I apologize. We're all here. And Ms. Nicholson, yes. So the question by Mr. Crotty, Chief, on page 1 of Exhibit D, do you recognize Charter Section AA.341? Answer, no, I don't. And then that's when we lost the commissioner.
All right, and just for the record, we did halt everything, including the time clock. There was no discussion off the record that took place during the time that we were waiting for reconnection to be established. So we are now back, and everybody that was previously present is again present, and we will restart the clock and turn it over to Firefighter Crotty.
Okay, thank you. So Chief, did you have a chance to look over while we were on that long break? AA?
No.
Okay. Did you rely on this for authority to subject me to punitive action regarding vaccination?
So this is a non-disciplinary separation, and I don't recall looking at this.
Okay, is AA341 the section that you relied upon to put me on unpaid leave?
I don't know. I relied upon folks that are well-versed in what our next steps were.
Okay, so the relevance of this document is that anything that is not provided for regarding police and fire employees in A8 is found here. There's information that the chief relied upon to have me barred from my workplace. Do you
Objection, the firefighter is testifying again.
I was leading into a question. I didn't finish my, okay.
Ask a question, please.
Okay. Do you understand that according to the charter section, the city needs to have just cause to dismiss me from?
I need you to slow down when you're reading, please. Thank you.
Do you understand that according to the charter section, the city needs to have just cause to dismiss me from employment?
Again, I don't. I have not read this article, this A8341, and I don't know where it's copied from.
Okay, so I want to point out that this section refers to pending investigation of acts which present an immediate danger to public health and safety. Do you see that? It's about midway through the page. After a felony or misdemeanor involving moral turpitude or acts which present an immediate danger to the public health and safety.
Okay.
Okay, so was I pending an investigation when you suspended me in July 2022?
Were you pending an investigation?
Did you ever do an investigation about my situation?
We followed the process that we followed for everyone.
Okay, so let's just, A8, is A8 the section that this trial is based upon?
I don't know.
Is A8 the authority for my termination derived from the city's merit system that you relied upon to place me on leave and recommend separating me from my permanent civil service position?
Again, I don't know. I don't know where this document is from. It doesn't have anything attached to it. This could have been, I'd have to go look up the city charter or whatever it is, because
Okay,
there's nothing on here stating like where it's from other than A8341, which
okay, we can move
doesn't
on.
necessarily mean anything.
All right, can you read the first part of the first sentence, A343, up until the word punished? Please.
343?
343.
Okay, let's see. A8343. In the circumstances listed in section A8341.
No, sorry, I'm not interrupting you to be interrupting you. Can I read it? Because obviously there's some mistake of how this is compiled, but do you mind if I read it?
Yes, just read slowly, please, for the court reporter.
Members of the uniform ranks of the fire or the police department guilty of any offense or violation of the rules and regulations of their respective departments shall be liable to be punished. Now, there are three phases in that sentence I would like you to take note of. The first is the phrase guilty of. The second is violation of rules and regulations. And the third is liable to be punished. Do these words sound like they were referring to disciplinary situations?
So again, I'm not sure what this document is or where it's from. There is nothing notating such on here. And so I don't feel like I can answer the question adequately because this is just a couple of pieces of paper.
All right. So, but just not knowing where they're coming from, do these words sound like they're referring to disciplinary situations?
Objection.
Sustained.
Thank you.
Okay. So why did you choose to use a disciplinary route, talking about discipline, and then recommended a non-disciplinary separation? If I refuse, let me rephrase that. If I refused a direct order from a superior, which I haven't been charged with, but all of a sudden I am, why did we go the route of non-disciplinary separation?
Those are attorney-client privilege conversations.
Okay, was it devised to negate and not have to follow all the rules laid out in the city charter, the Firefighter Bill of Rights, the MOU, and all the protections afforded under every law that protects workers? Do you think that may be the reason?
It is my understanding that we followed due process and that all of that you just said is incorrect. We followed the process that was laid out for us. So that's what I have to say about that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is your recommendation for separation at all based on the allegation that I did not upload proof of vaccination in the city portal people and pay system?
No, that would be a separate charge.
Okay. So can we go to D in Exhibit D, page labeled 2?
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and read it because there might be some confusion of where that is. It's actually the last page. Should be the second, but it's the last. So the last paragraph, subject to the foregoing, members of the uniform ranks.
Time is up. That's 60 minutes.
I'm sorry?
Time is up. 60 minutes is up.
Your time is up. I'll let you finish the question,
Thank you.
but I can't find what you're referring to. I'll just
Okay,
tell you,
so
I'm looking at E that's under D.
it's right. So it's D, and then it's the last page. It should be the second page, but it's the fourth page of that section, D.
D as in dog?
D is in dog. It's D1, and then I misfiled it from the printer. It goes 432, and I'm talking about page 2.
So President Feinstein, it's that same section on A8.341, removal or discharge.
Yes, it's for me, it's C, and
Look at the second page on that.
okay.
At the bottom, it should say subject to the foregoing.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so just for clarification, I didn't pull this out of nowhere. This is the city charter. And so I'm going to go ahead and read it, and then I'll ask the question, and then we can end my questioning. Subject to the foregoing, members of the uniform ranks of either department shall not be subject to dismissal nor to punishment for any breach of duty or misconduct except for cause, nor until after a fair and impartial trial before the commissioners of their respective departments, upon a verified complaint filed with such commission, setting forth specifically the acts complained of, and after such reasonable notice to them as to time and place of hearings as such commission may by rule prescribe, the accused shall be entitled upon hearing to appear personally and by counsel to have a public trial and to secure and enforce free of expense the attendance of all witnesses necessary for his defense. So, all right.
Is there a question?
Yes, there is. Can you give me 1 second, please? So you understand the charter directs you to set forth specifically the acts complained of.
So again, I don't know where this document is from. You are
It's the
saying
city
it's from
charter.
excuse me, you are saying it's from the city charter,
Mhm.
but it is just some Xeroxed pages that are not.
It's referenced in my verified
Excuse
complaint.
me,
Okay.
excuse me.
Yes, let the chief finish.
So I'm just looking at these 4 pieces of paper, Xerox pieces of paper, and it may say A8341, but I don't have the actual charter in front of me. So I don't know if this is actually what it states in there, or if this is something that's been altered. I don't know.
That would be a felony if I altered anything. Okay, I'm done.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Crotty. Does the department wish to call its next
Yeah,
witness?
that was my last question.
Madam President, I have a handful of redirect questions for the chief, if that's all right.
Okay. You may.
Okay. Chief Nicholson, I want to cover some of the, go back and cover some of the issues that were raised by Firefighter Crotty on direct. First, Firefighter Crotty asked questions with respect to the applicability of the health order to him as an individual firefighter. So to that extent, I would like to direct your attention to the general order, and let me find that. I'd like to direct your attention, Chief Nicholson, to the department's exhibit, the page that's been bait stamped 0040, Crotty 40, please.
Okay.
And looking specifically at subsection 2, the general order states, in accordance with State Public Health Officer Order of August 5th, 2021, and DPH Order C19-07Y. And then you write all members in the following ranks. Skipping ahead, you write, are required to have their first dose of a 1-dose regimen or their second dose of a 2-dose regimen by September 30th, 2021. So here's my question. Was the purpose of this general order to implement the health officer's health order?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Now, Firefighter Crotty also asked you a few questions about whether the health order requires accommodations. Now, I will recall for the record that you testified on direct that the department determined that it could not accommodate firefighters. And let me ask a few brief questions about that. Why did the department determine that it was impossible to allow unvaccinated firefighters to interact with high-risk individuals, such as the elderly, or the infirm, or the young?
So it would pose a health risk, and it could pose a significant health risk for those that are, as you said, infirmed or immunocompromised or elderly, etc.
And why did the department determine, why couldn't the department allow unvaccinated firefighters to interact with these communities while wearing a mask?
Again, it poses a health risk, and that was not the only requirement in the health order, to just wear a mask. And so, yeah, just a mask is not enough.
Now, in addition to interacting with high-risk communities, are firefighters required to sleep in the fire station?
Yes.
Does that mean they would have to wear a mask while sleeping?
I would assume so.
And did the department reach any determination as to whether it was possible for firefighters to sleep with a mask on?
Yeah, it would be impossible to make sure that was followed.
Now, why wouldn't it be possible to simply test all of the unvaccinated firefighters every day before they started their shifts?
That is just a logistical and operational burden that we would not be able to meet.
No further questions.
Thank you. All right.
At this point, Madam President, the department rests and requests that all its exhibits be moved into evidence.
All right. With regard to your exhibits, I'm going to admit exhibit number 1. I am going to admit part of exhibit 2, and I'm going to admit, I'll go with the SFFD Crotty bait stamp because they're double bait stamped. So it's on the bottom, it's the bottom bait stamp on the document. And I'm going to admit Crotty 0051 through the middle of Crotty 0068. From there on, from the middle of 0068 all the way through 0198, in my binder
Mm.
and in other people's binders, there's total illegibility. There
Yeah.
is one letter that is appearing on each line, and it's not our responsibility to put the letters together and turn them into words.
I
So that will
understood.
not be admitted. Those pages will not be admitted. And I'm prepared to admit Crotty 0199 through 0260 of Exhibit
Oh,
2.
mine. Yeah. That's
And
fine.
of Exhibit 3, the letter to President Buford. Not sure exactly how germane it is, but that can be admitted as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, Commissioner Feinstein, can I ask you to clarify what is illegible so I can produce a copy at a later time?
I can only give you the bait stamps as I just did because it's not legible. I can't identify it for you better.
Okay,
And it's the vast majority of Exhibit 2.
oh,
So
okay,
again, I admitted 0051 through the middle of 0068, and I admitted 0199 through 0260.
okay,
That's
it's,
it. And the rest was not admitted.
okay, so I have no idea how you're numbering these things, and it's no fault of your own, but when you refer to, okay, so at the, my binder at the first page has all of my exhibits listed. Can you point out to how you are?
No, I'm sorry, these were the city's exhibits.
Oh,
So that's from the city binder?
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yes, that's
Okay.
okay.
Thank you, Madam President.
All
The
right.
city rests.
Thank
Subject to
you.
revote.
Thank you. All right, so, there's
And
no,
I apologize, Madam President. Didn't mean to interrupt. Just a point of housekeeping. Lucy Chu from the department has been on standby, ready to testify in light of Firefighter Crotty's request for her testimony. However, given that Firefighter Crotty has now used up all his time for testimony, do I have the commission's permission to let her go and take her lunch break?
well, let me ask Mr. Crotty, do you wish to have Lucy Chu testify? Because you are out of time. I'm willing to let you, ask her just a few questions if you want her.
I would appreciate that.
All right, you're limited to 3 questions.
Okay. If you can give me 3 minutes, I'll give her a call and tell her to log on right now. Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Chu is on her way.
I see Miss Chu. Good afternoon, Miss Chu. Can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
All right, Mr. Yim, please proceed.
Did you need me to swear her in?
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you. And I couldn't hear you, Mr. Yan, so,
First
Okay.
of all, I was just noting that Commissioner Nakajo had left the room, but it looks like he's back. And secondly, that this is in fact Mr. Firefighter Crotty's witness, not mine.
you're right. Thank you. So yes, Madam Court Reporter, if you would, kindly swear the witness.
Okay, ma'am, can I have you raise your right hand and be sworn in?
Yeah,
Do you solemnly state the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Ms. Chu.
Hi, Mr. Crotty.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay, I just have 3 questions that have been
Okay.
afforded me for you, so you can get to lunch. But first question is, do you know who made the final decision that determined I could not provide information to show a conflict between my religious beliefs and vaccination?
Yes.
Okay. Who would that be?
I'm not sure I can divulge that information.
Mr.
If I
Yan?
may, my apologies if I may interject. Ms. Chu, is this because the person is an attorney for the city?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so on that basis, I object to the question as it calls for attorney-client information.
Thank you.
That would be sustained.
Okay, so was I able to appeal the denial for exemption, and what was that process, if you know?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yes, was I afforded the opportunity to appeal the denial for exemption, and what was that process, if you know?
Yes. You asked me that question, and I let you know that you could either file a grievance with Local 798 or that you can file an EEO complaint. Those were the 2 avenues of appeal that the city laid out.
Okay, so so you never had the power to grant or deny an exemption, correct?
It was a group effort. So, I discussed it as part of a group.
And you can't talk about who they were because of attorney-client privilege.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice lunch.
Thank you.
No cross-examination. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Madam Feinstein, Madam Commissioner, may I move to move all my records into my exhibits into the record, please?
Well, I think we're gonna need to go through the ones that have been referenced here and make sure we have a clear record. I've marked them as they have come up. For me, D1, which is in my binder under C Charlie, and I will admit it, at least accepting your representation that this is a correct copy of 4 pages of the charter of the city and county of San Francisco. Is there any opposition?
No opposition.
All right, it'll be admitted without opposition or objection. I next go to what is marked on the bottom as L1, but it appears in my binder under tab K. Do you seek to admit that? It is,
Yeah,
uh,
yes,
all right, it's basically your letter to Chief Nicholson. It's undated. And I believe the cover is just the transmittal sheet,
correct.
but it's 3 pages total.
Okay,
Any
yes.
objection?
No objection.
All right, it will be admitted without objection. Next, I'm turning to what is marked M1 and 2 pages. In my binder, it appears under tab L. Do you wish to move that into evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is there any objection?
My apologies. Is this the letter? Is this the email with Jesus Bouchon?
Yes, it's an emailed string, yes.
I do not. Yes, the department objects that this document was never authenticated by any witness.
I'm sorry, which one are you talking about? The letter to Jesusa and, because that's M.
Yes, that's M. I'm just indicating in my binder, and I don't know about the other commissioner's binder, that it appears under tab L.
Okay, good.
So
They're all marked exhibits on the lower right-hand corner, all the numbers and letters.
I understand that, but you submitted a 3-inch binder and the tabs aren't lining up with the marking. So I need to make a clear record about what I'm doing here, since
Right.
the
Okay.
yeah, the tabs and your markings don't coincide.
Okay.
Okay. Um, and I don't know if you have a response to the objection that was raised, or
Okay,
what, this wasn't referenced, you're right.
Okay, so, because we never got that far.
Right.
Okay,
So that will not be admitted
okay.
into evidence. Next, I have, it is O on the bottom of the pages, and it's N as in Nancy in my binder, and it is a letter to artist Graham from Daniel Thompson from the law firm of Goyette, Goyette, Ruano, Ruano, and Thompson, dated October 18th of 2021.
Madam President, the department objects. This document is hearsay, and it was never authenticated by any witness.
It's a grievance filed on my behalf. You're acting like I'm fabricating evidence. It's a very authenticated document between a law firm and the union and Artist Graham. This came from Artist Graham himself. Are you questioning whether Artist Graham, that I made up some letter?
It's addressed to artist Graham.
Okay, it's Thompson. It's communication.
Do you
Madam
maintain
President.
your objection, Mr. Yan?
I do. The document is hearsay. Mr. Thompson did not testify, so he cannot explain the contents within the document. And frankly, while Mr. Crotty maintains that this was a grievance filed on his behalf. He's never named anywhere in this document. It appears to be a generalized grievance on behalf of Local 798, and this is not a labor arbitration, so it's also irrelevant.
Yeah, I'm going to sustain that objection.
Okay, can you clarify? Wait, on the basis of hearsay?
Well, that it's hearsay, and that it doesn't mention you. It doesn't it's a general grievance, and that's not something that the commission deals with. That would be something that a labor arbitrator would deal with.
It's reliable hearsay.
It's the statement of a position. I'm not going to admit it. And then the last, no, not the last one, second to last one I have is marked as R. In my binder, it's under the tab Q, and it is the EEO Employer Compliance Manual, and I believe it's a 13-page exhibit.
Madam President, the department objects. Once again, this document is hearsay, and it has not been authenticated by any witness. Chief Nicholson testified that she's never seen this before and was not able to testify to its authenticity.
On this one, I'm going to overrule your objection, and I agreed that it's hearsay, but it may have some value, it may not. And we'll take it for that. So that is admitted. And then the last one I have marked that was discussed during the hearing is it's marked on the pages as W1 through, well, it's not. It says W1, and it appears to be a 7-page document. In my binder, it is Exhibit U, as in union, and it's the COVID vaccination policy as amended August 6th of 2021.
No objection.
All right, it will be admitted into evidence. Okay, as previously indicated, we are taking a 15-minute break prior to closing arguments. So I'll see you here at let's just say 2:20.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Wilson will be rejoining us.
I do not know. I'm happy to send her a text message. Oh, there she is.
Ah, I'm here.
All right. We have everybody. Yes, we do. All right. I thank everybody for their hard work today. We're now proceeding to closing arguments. As you'll recall, the department has 10 minutes for its opening closing argument. And then Firefighter Crotty opted not to make an opening statement, but to give a longer, use the time for a longer closing statement, which I'm going to allow. So he has 20 minutes for his closing statement. And then the department, again, bearing the burden of proof, has 5 minutes for rebuttal closing. So with that, let's start with you, Mr. Yan.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you to the members of the commission. And I'd like to begin, given that this is likely the last of the hearings before this commission, I wanted to start by thanking the members of this commission for their service, their grit, and their commitment to the protection of San Franciscans. I know that these hearings have been a very trying experience for everyone. So whatever your ultimate decision is in this case, I nevertheless wanted to express my appreciation for the hard work that everyone in this hearing has done on behalf of the city. Now, turning back to this case, the key facts before the commission remain undisputed. The health officer, in her informed judgment, determined that in order to protect the city from COVID-19, all employees who enter certain high-risk settings must be fully vaccinated. Chief Nicholson, in her informed judgment, determined that it would be unreasonably risky for firefighters like Firefighter Crotty to perform the essential functions of his job without entering a high-risk setting or coming into contact with vulnerable members of the public. The health order explicitly allows her to make that judgment based on her experience and education.
Did anyone else lose him?
Yeah. We lost pictures of Vice President.
I am
Everybody
still
there? Everybody's cameras went out, it looks like.
Yeah. Madam Secretary, yeah, and I'd seen a flash where it says we're having difficulties, or I don't know who wrote that. I don't know if the system did or WebEx did or someone else.
Yeah, it looks like we lost Commissioner Nakajo.
And President Feinstein's audio's out.
He's gone as
Commissioner-
well. So
Commissioner
guess-
Morgan, I can see you, but just you.
Yeah, I just seen a sign saying we're having problems from WebEx.
Yeah, so the other commissioners, the president and vice president, are gone at this time.
So I'm not the only one. I feel better now.
Coming back.
Okay. Madam President, I think you're on mute.
You're right. I have two rectangles for Firefighter Crotty. One with him in it, and the other just a gray rectangle.
So I get a clear picture of him.
I can see him, but he has two boxes on the screen.
Yeah.
You probably tried to re-log in on a different device.
I'm sorry. My wife just indicated that she didn't mean to do that. So disregard. She's going to get rid of that right now. Okay. She says she's not logged in. A correction. So I don't know what to do about this.
Ms. Conifrey, what do you show?
I showed two boxes, one with Mr. Crotty's video and one just a straight gray box. So let me see if I can.
So that's not you, right?
Yeah, that's in our room.
No, it's not. It's not us.
Whenever Firefighter Crotty speaks, both boxes light up. So it may just be a glitch. I don't know that it's necessarily affecting anything.
Let me try that. Is that right?
Now, yeah, both boxes lit up.
Okay.
So
Okay, so is that present a problem to anybody?
not for me, ma'am.
All right.
Eric
Okay.
does.
And now the box is gone, of course. All right. So, what can I say? Technology. Okay, we're going to go back on the record, and I'm sorry, Mr. Yan, your
No, that's
closing
fine.
argument was interrupted by a technological glitch, but everybody's back and everybody is present, so please continue.
Sure. Not entirely sure where where I cut off. However, and I'll just start from the top of the argument. Once again, thanking all the commissioners for all their work. Once again, the key facts before the commission remain undisputed. The health officer, in her informed judgment, determined that in order to protect the city from COVID-19, all employees who enter certain high-risk settings must be fully vaccinated. Chief Nicholson, in her informed judgment, determined that it would be unreasonably risky for firefighters like Crotty to perform the essential functions of his job without entering a high-risk setting or coming into contact with vulnerable members of the public. The health order explicitly allows the chief to make that judgment based on her experience and her education. Now, unlike nearly every other firefighter in the department and 99% of the city's other employees, Firefighter Crotty made the decision not to get vaccinated. Given the option of a free, widely available shot that 200 million Americans have already taken without incident, one that health experts across the world have said is critical to finally ending the pandemic, Firefighter Crotty said no. His decision is why we are here today. Now, Firefighter Crotty argued during his case that the health order does not apply to him because he is an individual. But the fire department was, but it is undisputed that the fire department was subject to the health order, and the fire chief, Chief Nicholson, issued a general order to implement the health order. And it is undisputed that Firefighter Crotty did not comply with the general order. Mr. Crotty also argued in the form of questions that the health order allows unvaccinated individuals to enter high-risk settings under certain circumstances. But as we demonstrated on page 19 of the health order, it clearly states that the department does not have to permit unvaccinated individuals to enter high-risk settings. In this case, Chief Nicholson determined that letting unvaccinated firefighters enter high-risk settings where they could interact with the elderly, the young, the sick, and other high-risk individuals would significantly compromise public health. And Firefighter Crotty has offered no reason to doubt the chief's judgment. Now, Chief Nicholson, in her position as chief of the fire department, has made the determination that a vaccinated department is critical to the protection of the health and safety of the residents of San Francisco. Firefighter Crotty disagrees with that decision, and he has the right to disagree with that decision. But the department is not obligated to take his side over the side of the health officer, public health authorities, and its own judgment about how best to keep the people of San Francisco safe. Once again, Firefighter Crotty's decision not to get vaccinated has left the department with no choice but to separate him from his employment, and the commission must uphold that decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yan. Mr. Crotty, you now have 20 minutes.
You are on mute.
Thank you. I was deprived due process to the limit of time that I was prevented from asking all the questions I had for the chief for my defense. I had submitted a motion telling the commission that I had an ADA protected diagnosis that prevented me from performing. Anyway, so my name is Michael Bernard Crotty. I'm an Irish American Catholic, San Francisco native. My family's been in the city for 4 generations. I don't know if You are all familiar with the city's flag. If you're not, I encourage you to research it. Its central symbol is a mythical figure called the Rising Phoenix. I would like to talk about this symbolism for a moment because I think it's applicable to my life, my career, and the state of our city today. The mythical phoenix was chosen because it's an ancient symbol of immortality. When a long-lived phoenix feels death is near, it builds a nest of aromatic wood under itself and sets it afire. As one dies, a new phoenix arises from the ashes, just as San Francisco arose from several great fires throughout its history, and just as I will do after today. Symbolically speaking, the effects and response to COVID-19 have burnt a lot of the world as we formerly knew it to the ground. Our work, our friendships, our families, our businesses, our communities, and the lives will never be the same. A pile of charred debris left behind continues to smolder. Today, the Fire Commission will incinerate my beloved career, but during my last moments as a San Francisco firefighter, I want to provide perspective, share some personal stories, and send out a message of hope and renewal. My family immigrated from Ireland in the mid-1800s. They arrived in San Francisco, helped build, and have proudly served our community for generations. My great-grandfather was a bricklayer by trade, and in 1863 founded the San Francisco Bricklayers Union Local 5. He and his crews were responsible for building many of the structures that have been historical landmarks, and we all conduct business in our city today. He led the hardworking tradesmen who rebuilt our great city after the 1906 earthquake. My grandfather became the president of the SF Bricklayers Union following his years of hard manual labor and dedication to the city and his craft. He lived in an era when employees had little rights, benefits, and privileges in their jobs. They worked long hours with inadequate safety precautions and less than ideal conditions. They were subjected to employer abuses, and workers were literally willing to die to secure better working conditions, benefits, and pay for themselves and their posterity. My grandfather eventually went to work for the city and county of San Francisco as a civil servant. Ironically, after all his efforts, he died as a result of being injured on the job. My family has literally bled and died for the city that they helped build and loved. My father, Bernard Crotty, Barney, was also a member of the Bricklayers Union when he first appointed to civil service in the 1950s. Barney quickly rose through the ranks and became at that time the youngest superintendent in the history of the city. He was at the helm of the Department of Public Works for almost 30 years, working under various mayors, including Joseph Alioto, George Moscone, Dianne Feinstein, Art Agnes, Frank Jordan, etc. He retired in the 80s from the city, but continued to be a key player in local politics and city government and was an active member of our city's employment organizations. Having come from a strong union family himself, my father respected his subordinates immensely. He respected and valued workers' rights and fought against discrimination at every turn. As a result, he was afforded tremendous respect by his subordinates and superiors alike. I have witnessed grown men tear up with emotion when they recount the dignity, respect, and brotherhood that Barney showed them throughout their careers. On May 20th, 1967, Barney suffered a devastating, life-changing experience. Returning home late one night after a colleague's retirement dinner, he and his friend saw a red glow in the night's foggy sky from a distance as they turned down Claremont Boulevard in the West Portal neighborhood. He said to his friend, "Oh my God, someone's home is on fire." And as they got closer, he realized it was his own. They pulled up in front of his house that was fully engulfed in flames. They had arrived at the same moment as the crews were stepping off their rigs, and he recounted that everyone seemed to be moving in slow motion as his entire family was inside. Screaming their names, he ran past police and firefighters. He got the door open as he fumbled with his keys and tried to run into the flames so he could get to them. He was immediately dragged out of the doorway and down the front steps to safety by the firemen at the scene. Many firefighters who were at that house that night have painfully recounted the devastating scene to me. It was the most horrific event of their careers. When the fire was finally extinguished and the morning light illuminated the wreckage, they began to remove the bodies of his family. His wife's badly burnt body was found in the upper floor with a telephone receiver in her hand. The children's bodies were burnt beyond recognition. Two of the girls were kneeling, one with her hands positioned in prayer, her sister with her arms around her beside a bed. His son was found crouched down in the corner of the staircase with his arms over his head as he was obviously trying to make it out of the house to find help that was only a few blocks away at Station 39 that never came. He was stopped in the stairway when the house exploded in a backdraft. One man I spoke to, the son of a retired fireman who was at the scene, said he had asked his father what the worst call he'd ever went on was. Without hesitation, he responded to Crotty fire. He broke down crying as he recounted the fire to him, and the fire crews had been walking up and down the stairs for hours before they noticed my little brother's body in the corner. This tragic event in 1967 took the lives of Barney's wife of 25 years and his 4 children. All were under the age of 12. He was just a little younger than I am today. When you drive past St. Brendan's School and Church on Portola Boulevard, where the children attended and the family worshiped, you will see cypress trees. They were planted in memorial of Pauline, John, Kathy, Julia, and Peggy. The fire and their deaths would have driven the strongest men to the brink. He might have even taken his own life if he didn't have such strong faith in God. Thankfully, through his faith and the support from the community, he persevered. The cohesive community, once cherished by San Franciscans, supported him through his tremendous grief. In spite of his immense suffering, he managed to live out a courageous life, gratefully serving others in both a professional and personal capacity. Barney served as the CEO of the San Francisco Employees Federal Credit Union, worked for the Protect Our Benefits organization, and was on the city's retiree board and served as president. He fought for, protected, and won many of the benefits we all enjoy today. He was a great and selfless man. He always fought for the fair and equitable treatment of all people and encouraged others to do the same. Our city was graced with his dedication and service. It is heartbreaking to see his hard work slowly be dismantled and undermined by those with no appreciation for the struggles they endured. At the age of 50, Barney met my mom, was given an opportunity to rise from the ashes, start a second family, bringing myself and then my sister into the world, and began a new and amazing chapter of life. He regarded his second family as an incredible blessing from God. I am his son from that second family. As early as my memory served, we were told of our siblings in heaven who died in the fire. My parents openly shared this tragic history that forever altered my father's life and explained why and how we came into existence. It is incredibly symbolic to me that the Fire Commission unknowingly scheduled this hearing today on his birthday. He was born on October 19th, 1923, and he would have been 99 years old today. Happy birthday, Dad. I know you were with me in spirit. My career goal has been set since early childhood. I was determined to be a firefighter for the city of San Francisco. I knew I wanted to serve and protect this community just like the men who saved my father's life the night of the fire. I was 42 years old before I achieved my dream. I felt like I'd won the lottery when I was able to finally work in this noble profession. I have been grateful to God to have had the opportunity to live this lifelong calling. Last year, I was faced with an enormous decision. The situation placed my religious beliefs, my health, my values, my love for humanity, and the career which I have treasured as a gift from God at odds. It has been extremely painful for me not to be afforded fair treatment and respect regarding this crossroads, free from discrimination, judgment, pressure, harassment, and intimidation. Maybe some of you are wondering what my background, my family history, and the Phoenix Rising have to do with today's proceedings. I will attempt to connect the dots. I am telling you my story because I want you all to have a full picture of my state of mind, who I am, and why my conscience has guided me here. I find myself in a situation where I'll be stripped of a vocation that means so much to me. Some may see this as my fault. The department has painted a picture of a defiant and selfish child who won't take its medicine, a child who doesn't care who he hurts as long as he gets his way. This couldn't be farther from the truth. I am a man with a lifetime of respect and love for the fire department, its personnel, the city, and the community. a man who was put in a no-win situation by the city. I had a 20-year employment record with the city and county of San Francisco, was discipline-free, and had always adhered to safety rules and respected authority and my superiors. I have presented this information to show that I did not act in bad faith for one moment, nor did I intend to disrespect authority, nor do I believe I am or was ever a danger to public health. I did not obstruct the government from providing a healthy and safe environment for the community and its employees. It was the city that would not permit me to follow my conscience and keep my job. I respect and love the men and women of the San Francisco Fire Department, and I have a great devotion to the health and well-being of all the people in our city. I admire the hard work, dedication, and service of the brave souls who work for the SFFD and all who manage the daily difficult operations. But I also believe many have lost their way due to the chaos of the pandemic, politics, and a desire to get back to some degree of normalcy. I pray they too will rise from the ashes. It is because my ancestors, especially my father, dedicated their lives to ensuring that all employees who work for San Francisco civil servants should have their rights preserved, their benefits protected, and shall be treated fairly in employment matters that I participate in this hearing, despite knowing the predetermined outcome. Shortly after I was infected and recovered from COVID-19, the city unilaterally implemented a mandate that had quick deadlines and disparate impacts for many employees. This caused me and many first responders who had worked through the pandemic a great deal of stress. When the mandate was implemented in June 21 without proper notice to Local 798, before the impacts of the change in working conditions could be negotiated, the department and the city began bombarding employees with messages, letters, emails, and memos involving threats of discipline. They sent out messengers to tell employees they could be arrested and disseminated false information about losing our pensions. They were intimidating, coercive, and retaliatory towards anyone who stood in their way to gain 100% compliance. There was no opportunity for us as trusted, faithful employees to sit down and discuss options and concerns with anyone who had the power to alleviate our worries or answer our questions. We went from being 2020's heroes to being treated as 2020 zeros after the introduction of this mandate. Some of the events that took place behind the singular focus of getting employees to take these injections has been immoral, unethical, spiteful, vicious, and most importantly, unlawful. The city and county of San Francisco and the fire department put into motion a pressure-filled crusade using fear and intimidation directed at our competent, previously valued employees. High-ranking members of the SFFD command staff spread falsehoods and misinformation regarding ways in which permanent firefighters would be punished. They claimed we would be immediately released from employment without due process and would lose our pensions if we didn't immediately comply. We were told not to bother submitting any religious exemptions because they wouldn't be granted, especially if we were Catholic. We were told that we would spend the rest of our career changing tires in a muni yard. We were told that we would be made examples of, and we would suffer consequences unimaginable, and labeled troublemakers for trying to take a stand for our God-given and constitutional rights. We were told we had no rights because the union gave them all away. These are some of the threats and intimidation we were subjected to for months. We were given no direction or assistance in filing exemptions, which were carved out in the DHR policy and procedures to comply with the Civil Rights Code of 1964. Having the background and knowledge to understand that we were being fed blatant lies and the city and department was acting in bad faith, intending to pressure employees into waiving their rights, I set out to defend the less knowledgeable employees. I believe I suffered retaliation as a result. When I and other similarly situated employees banded together to address some of our employers' failures to engage in good faith negotiations, and we objected to the inadequate time to make informed decisions, we became persona non grata. The unethical methods of intimidation which have been perpetrated against these outstanding employees were unconscionable. I and others were branded as selfish, troublemaking, disrespectful employees by individuals who knew nothing about my character, I realized the Crotty name, once revered by those who knew our city's history, will likely be tarnished and overshadowed by these events. I lament the diminishing feelings of pride, loyalty, and the love that I always held in my heart for the city. And the department. I long for the integrity that my lineage helped create regarding civil service employees. It pains me to witness my family's contribution to this great city and their dedicated service be forgotten, but moreover destroyed. My Catholic faith, passed down from generations of faithful believers, is the center point of my life. Although in my youth I strayed from my moral beliefs and practices and fell into a destructive pattern of alcohol abuse, after many attempts to stop for over a decade, I turned back to God and lived in a religious community in Italy for 4 years. I returned home to the States a new man and began to earnestly pursue my lifelong desire to be a firefighter with the belief that one day I would achieve my dream. I took a low-level position in the department that my father had once run, working as a street sweeper on swing shift in the middle of the Tenderloin. I worked amongst society's outcasts and rejects and treated them with respect and dignity. I believing that my life has always been directed by God's hand, and that it was no mistake that I was put there in the midst of people who had nothing and lived from one bottle or bag of poison to the next. I spent many days and nights while on breaks talking to those men and women who were lost and shared my experience of strength, hope, and faith to encourage them to seek help and change the direction and trajectory of their lives through faith in God. I don't know how many I may have reached, but I would often pray for them and had in the forefront of my mind, but for the grace of God go I. After many years of hard manual labor for DPW, the Port of San Francisco, and the Department of Recreation and Parks, I finally got the call I had waited for and worked towards for decades. I was granted a position as a firefighter. Unfortunately, I had lost my mother years early and she never got to see that dream realized. But my father was able to attend my graduation, although at the time he didn't fully grasp my accomplishment or understand because he was starting to suffer from dementia. After a lifetime of working towards his job, I had finally realized my dream. I had a difficult time in the academy as I had never been able to buckle down in school. Regardless of the obstacles, I was able to overcome my difficulties and successfully graduate from the academy and learn my trade well. I believe I was an asset to the department as I had compassion for patients and those that called in times of great difficulty. I do not feel that I am above or better than someone on the street and treat them as I would someone whose house we would enter into Seacliff or Pacific Heights, what many of you would all consider to be the elite of our city. Many of the people who you've already fired, those who I now call my best friends, are also people of the same caliber. You don't realize who and what you've lost by removing upstanding faithful servants. In my 21 years as a public servant, I have never had one instance in which my performance or integrity was called into question or was disciplined for any reason. I believe the same all goes for who you've now terminated. You've destroyed the careers of some of the best people you could find from the fire department. You've called into question the validity and substance of my religious beliefs and declared that I was not qualified. Some of my best friends are Catholic priests, and one of them is my cousin. Several of my aunts were nuns, and my uncle started Catholic schools across the country, so you have no idea how unfair these accusations are and wrong. You all are. I've spent the last 26 years serving God in all aspects of my life. I spent much of my free time helping those suffering from addiction and their families, spent thousands of hours on the phone, driving people to rehab, facilitating their life-changing journeys to Europe to the place that saved my life, spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, to multitudes of men and women, speaking at spiritual conferences across the country, and even praying for those deceased while I was performing CPR on them, and then comforting the loved ones of those who we couldn't save. I'm a man of strong faith and convictions. I find it only slightly amusing and incredibly ironic that those who have been assigned this task of stripping my vocation are blind to how discriminatory this is. As people from classes that have been some of the most oppressed and mistreated in our not too distant history, I would think you would be more sensitive. I would imagine that individuals of Jewish heritage, African American, and Japanese descent, women, and those of other scorned populations would recognize injustice when they saw it. When we consider diversity in the city, religious diversity is not, should not be exempt from this goal. I could not participate in what you've undoubtedly been ordered to do to myself and my friends. We've endured vicious attacks from the media and even the city's attorney's office calling us conspiracy theorists and lunatics. We've been labeled as killers and have endured the most horrible, unfair, and unbelievable treatment by coworkers, so-called friends, and some of our relatives. We've all been ruined financially. I couldn't even afford a lawyer to represent me today. I spent my life defending the disadvantaged and the underdogs of our society and lived a life of service to others. I'm not driven by money, prestige, or the trappings of this world. I found it incredibly insulting when the president of this commission asked why my coworkers didn't go to another department to seek employment with those that didn't require vaccination and alluded that our reason was about money. Money was never my motive for becoming a firefighter. It was actually the last thing on my list of why I wanted this career. I never applied to another fire department because this is my city, my community, my home, and that of all my family that I wanted to protect and serve. I've explained through this statement what this job means to me. It's my vocation and my birthright given my family's history in this city. No doubt you'll go into secret deliberations and end my career, but just know that while you strip me of my property and my rights, you take my career from me. You will never rob me of my convictions or my integrity. My father lost his whole family at my age and persevered. My loss today pales in comparison. As the phoenix dies and rises again, so will I rise from this injustice and be renewed into a stronger man with a determination to fight against these injustices. Saint Michael, the archangel, defend us in battle. Be our safeguard against the wickedness and snares of the devil, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about this world seeking the ruins of souls. Amen. St. Francis and St. Florian, pray for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Firefighter Crotty. I turn to the city. If you wish 5 minutes of rebuttal argument.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you once again to the members of the commission. Thank you, Firefighter Crotty, for sharing his long family history in the city. Now, it's clear from Firefighter Crotty's story that his father devoted much to the people of the city. But the fire department's actions today do not tarnish the memory of his father. It cherishes it. By placing the health and safety of the residents of the city and county of San Francisco first and foremost, the fire department is acting in the best traditions of the public servants of the city, and I urge you to, as the commission, to support their work. Now, I'd like.
Lost you. We lost you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, but I'm not sure if the court reporter, I'm not sure what was said because I couldn't hear. Would you mind, Madam Court Reporter, just reading back his last few words? I can't hear you now.
Wow, it just goes.
Now I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The last statement was, I urge you as the commission to support their work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. Now, Madam President, I'd like to take a moment to respond to a couple of the comments made by Firefighter Crotty in his statement. Once again, as should be evident, we're not here today to discuss Firefighter Crotty's family legacy or his personal reputation. We're here to discuss his decision to defy a general order by the chief of the department. We're not here to talk about his claims of harassment, retaliation, or discrimination. As you heard Lucy Chu testify, he had the right to make those claims by filing a labor grievance or by filing a report to the city's equal employment division. There's no evidence he did either of those things, so those issues are not before the commission today. And finally, Firefighter Crotty made an attempt to equate his current situation with the civil rights struggles of Black Americans, people of color, and LGBT individuals throughout the city's history. As a person of color myself, I find that comparison insulting, and I'm not going to address it. What I will do is return to the image of the phoenix that Firefighter Crotty raised and discussed throughout his statement. And I'm glad he raised this point because the phoenix is a symbol of rebirth. And the city, and so we can all remember that in March 2020, the COVID pandemic put the city on its knees. It destroyed businesses, it destroyed families, and destroyed lives. But thanks to the hard work and difficult decisions made by public health individuals in the best traditions of the city and following the best lessons learned by public health individuals and professionals during the AIDS crisis in the city, San Francisco is on its way back. San Francisco has weathered this storm better than virtually any other city in this country, and that is thanks to decisions like the general order and the health order to require vaccinations in order to protect employees and protect the people of this city. And it's also thanks to the tough work of commissioners like yourself to support those efforts and to support that rebirth. So once again, San Francisco is on its way back, and I urge you as the commission in this final hearing to continue to support the work of the fire department and to support the health and safety of the 875,000 residents of the city and county of San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yan. And I thank everybody for their presentations and patience today. At this time, the commission will begin its deliberations. The first thing that must be determined is whether those deliberations will take place in open session or closed session. So I turn to my fellow commissioners.
Yes, Commissioner Morgan, I'd like to make a motion. We have them in closed session.
All right, and Vice President Nacasio?
Thank you very much, Commissioner Morgan. Madam President, I'm going to second that motion for closed session.
And President Feinstein, how do you vote?
I vote for closed session, yes.
The motion is unanimous. We will go into closed session at 3:04.
Thank you.
Madam Court Reporter, I'm going to put you out into the attendees room and bring you back in for the announcement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh,
Hold
no.
on, I got to get Mr. Yan out and then put us into closed session here. And Commissioner Morgan went off screen again.
I have him.
No,
Oh,
I'm here.
there he is. Okay. All right, we are back in open session. The time is 3:27. Item D1, report on any action taken in closed session as specified in California Government Code, Section 54957-1A5 and San Francisco Administrative Code, Section 67.12B4.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Council, Firefighter Crotty. On behalf of the Commission, I will disclose that by unanimous vote of the Commissioners present, the Commission voted to find that the Department proved by a preponderance of the evidence that Firefighter Crotty failed to comply with the city's health order and the Chief's general order, and to uphold the Chief's recommendation of a non-disciplinary separation in this matter. The Commission will issue a letter tomorrow memorializing this decision. The separation will be effective tomorrow, close of business. Once the record in this matter is prepared, the Commission will issue findings of fact that support its decision. Additionally, the letter that will be issued tomorrow will specify that Firefighter Crotty has a right to an administrative appeal of this decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, vote to elect whether to disclose any or all discussions held in closed session as specified in San Francisco Administrative Code, Section 67.12A.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the code number.
67.12A.
Thank you.
All right. I would move not to disclose.
I
Do we have a
second that.
second? Army Morgan, seconds, and Vice President Nakajo, how do you vote?
I agree. I got affirm.
Okay, the motion is unanimous. Item 3, adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
And Vice President Nakajo, how do you vote?
I vote aye to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned at 3:29. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Good luck.